How much did you pay for them?
They're quite cheap, actually.
I thought you were going to say €13. When did you buy? You're hungry.
There's about 5. There, you have one.
No, I can't. I'm a celiac. But anyway, thanks for the offer.
Well, look at one then. I don't know what. I'll get you.
Can I
get you one next week? That.
No, you're fine. No.
Can you get ones that are celiac friendly?
Croissants? No, I haven't come. Well, you possibly, if you really looked for it, you could.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
I'm sure some of our listeners might have some information in that regard. Lee, take care of yourself. Have a lovely weekend.
You too. All right.
All right. Thank you. All right. It is the 9 till noon show here in Highland Radio. We have our Friday panel joining us very, very shortly, but it's 9 o'clock. Time for news update. Good morning, Donald Kavanagh.
Thank you, Greg. Good morning. The mother of Danielle McLaughlin, who was killed in Goa 5 years ago, says she is hopeful of a quick conclusion of the trial of the man accused of her rape and murder. It follows a high-level meeting in India between Goa's chief minister and 2 high-level diplomats from Ireland and Britain. Danielle had been travelling on a British passport at the time. With more, here's Donna Marie Doherty.
Vikat Bhagat is accused of the rape and murder of Buncrana woman Danielle McLaughlin, who was found dead on March 14, 2017. Her mother, Andrea Brannigan, told the Irish Daily Star she is hopeful that yesterday's meeting will help speed up the trial of Vikat Bhagat, which began in April 2018 but has been beset by delays. The Consul General of Ireland, Gerry Kelly, and Britain's Deputy High Commissioner in Western India met with Goa's Chief Minister to seek the quick conclusion of the trial. Mr Kelly gave the Chief Minister a letter from Miss Brannigan requesting that the trial be expedited and expressing her fear that she will never get justice for Danielle. In a joint statement issued after the meeting, Mr Kelly and the Deputy High Commissioner said ensuring a quick conclusion to the trial is a significant priority for the two governments as well as for Danielle's family.
The Social Democrats are calling on the government to introduce a mini-budget following the publication of CSO figures which show inflation at a 38-year high. The party says the historic inflation rate, coupled with the announcement that interest rates are on the way up in the coming weeks, will compound the financial difficulties already facing many families, and the government should establish an emergency fund to help those most at risk. Meanwhile, as the St Vincent de Paul organisation reports a 20% increase in requests for help this year, the Society's Donegal president says she expects the cost of living crisis to worsen in the autumn. Rosa Dlacken says a number of factors will lead to a further surge in appeals for help.
The autumn will see a huge surge in requests for assistance because not only have you back to school, but then the weather will be getting colder and people will be looking, for fuel help and so on. So it's okay, the government has brought in some measures, but they're really going to have to look at the bigger picture and the support that's required. I honestly believe that there will be a huge surge in demand come the autumn, yeah.
A teenage boy is dead and 2 adults seriously injured following a collision between a car and a lorry in County Cavan. It happened at around 6:30 last evening on the N3 between Butler's Bridge and Belturbet. The 17-year-old was rushed from the scene to Cavan General Hospital, where he later died. A woman in her 50s and a man in his 40s are also being treated for serious but non-life-threatening injuries. Gardaí are urging any witnesses, and in particular anyone with dashcam footage, to come forward. And the County Donegal GP says it's right that the HSE is scaling back on its contact tracing operations. The Health Authority is planning to reduce them at the end of the month. Staff at centres in Galway and Limerick are being redeployed to other government departments, with the Limerick staff now working at a passport call centre for the Department of Foreign Affairs. Well, Stranraer GP Dr Dennis McCauley chairs the IMO's GP subcommittee.
I think people have sort of, in their own ways, moved on. I think that the general public have actually become quite used to living with COVID. I think that the effectiveness and the actual productivity of the contact tracing team now would have to be questioned. I think there was always going to be a situation when the numbers of cases of COVID began to drop below a certain level that they would dispense with the necessity of the full contact tracing team, and then they would use local teams instead.
Windy and blustery with widespread showers, mixed with some brighter sunny intervals. Several of the showers turning heavy today with a chance of some isolated thunderstorms. Top temperatures 16 to 18 in strong and gusty southwest winds. That's Highland Radio News. We're back with news in full at 10 o'clock.
If you are 65 or over, or you have a weak immune system, you can now get your second COVID-19 booster vaccine. Your vaccine is due 4 months after your last vaccine. It will improve your protection from COVID-19. You can book a vaccination centre appointment on hsc.ie or contact a participating GP or pharmacy. For more information on your second booster or to book an appointment, visit hsc.ie. or call our team in HSE Live on 1800 700 700 from the HSE for us all.
And now it's time for the talk of the Northwest, the 9 to Noon Show with Greg Hughes on Highland Radio.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Just approaching 5 minutes past 9 on this Friday, the 10th of June. You're very welcome along to another edition of the 9 till Noon Show. And it is Friday, which means coming up later, Michael and Fanula will be in studio with us from 11 o'clock. Talking all things entertainment, ease us into the weekend, and we kick off with the Friday panel where we discuss some of the big stories of the week. We want you involved in that conversation, obviously. You get involved by texting 08660 25000, 08660 25000, WhatsApps to that number too, or give Donna Marie or Caroline a call on 07491 25,000. You can hop on the website right now and watch the show, highlandradio.com. You can watch in browser there. You should see the links, or go direct to our social media, and feel free to interact and have your say there as well. Okay, let's introduce our guests this morning, and we say hello first to Paddy Rooney, PRO of Friends of Letterkenny University Hospital. Paddy, good morning to you.
Good morning, Greg, Claire, Peter, how are you?
And also Claire McDonough, Director of La Maison Letterkenny, a member of the Letterkenny Chamber. Claire, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, Greg.
And you heard Paddy allude to Dr. Peter O'Rourke, former consultant orthopaedic surgeon. Good morning to you, Peter.
Good morning.
Are you fully retired now, or are you still involved in the initiatives overseas, or what way does that work, Peter?
Well, I was due to go to Vietnam as part of a group to do joint replacements, and that unfortunately fell by the wayside for COVID, but it looks like that's going ahead next March. I'm not involved in any clinical work, but I do other bits and pieces. Yeah,
okay. That was just my own curiosity when I saw your face. I was just wondering. Okay, we'll start with you, Paddy, if that's all right. First on the news that they settled their decision to locate in-house cardiac catheterization lab at Letterkenny University Hospital. A lot of anxiety, perhaps some of it avoidable in the lead up to this decision, but we'll take good news as we get it. This is good news.
Absolutely, Greg, it's good news. I have to say, over the last month or 6 weeks, it's been a fascinating experience actually watching this unfold, because it's extraordinary that people very, very far away from Letterkenny, I'm talking about people in Galway, can make a decision to switch off a service without taking any consideration at all, Greg, about the impact that it's going to have on people. And I'm talking about the 400 people or so that will need diagnostic angiography next year, had it in Letterkenny, that suddenly they would have a 400-mile round trip to go to Galway to get the service when it was readily available on their doorstep over the last 12 years. Very safely, I have to say. I don't recollect any patient safety issue or any adverse outcome in relation to one case. It was very, very safe and very sound. There was also very little consideration given to the consultant cardiologist, because one of his, there was a tool taken out of his box of tricks that impacted on his ability to care and treat for his patients. And I mean, that would be akin to Peter, for instance, the MRI scanner had been taken away from him, and he would have to send his patients to wherever to get that service. And of course, the other thing then was that a decision could have been made so casually without the impact on a registered charity, like the people of Donegal that raised €750,000. And this piece of equipment then was going to be used, Greg, for a service that otherwise wasn't intended for. And it's just extraordinary that those decisions were taken without taking any of those things into consideration.
But even when a description of those decisions and what is to come was being made by Mr. Canavan, very clinical approach to it. Maybe that's the way it has to be, about, well, it is what it is. We're going to have a look. If it's safe to do so, we'll do it. But if it's not safe to do so, we'll not do it. And no apologies given. Now, I don't know enough about this to sort of necessarily challenge that as best as I possibly could. But it felt to me very very matter of fact when if I were a member of staff involved in this listing, I'd go, really? Is that how it works? Is that how you might view us? Do you get where I'm coming from?
Yeah, Greg, but the mood music, though, very soon after this was that if the Chircon Tribune and they deserve a huge amount of credit now for putting this into the public forum in the first place and keeping it there until a decision was made one way or the other. I mean, if that fuss hadn't been made now, Greg, the diagnostic service would have been gone in the hospital, because I don't think any review would have been taken place. A decision was made to stop it, and I think that would have been the end of it.
So you believe, even though it was said otherwise, a decision had been made to withdraw this service from Letterkenny?
Oh, I would say so, because remember that now, you know, the private company that was providing the mobile service, I mean, they were the catalyst to starting off with this to blow off in the first place. But I mean, the equipment was lying idle in the hospital. It went idle with a small I, because it had been used for other things for the last 4 years. If there was a concerted effort to use this equipment, it would have been done long before this. I think this was an opportunity to close the whole thing down. I think that people who were involved in this saw this for what it is, that it was an opportunity to close it down.
All right, and it is by coincidence, as our guests will know, that we have two guests that formerly, were involved with the hospital. This is not predetermined as far as someone, unless Caroline's pulling strings I don't know that we had access to. But I'll come to Claire in a moment. But to you, Peter, just to Paddy's comments there, that, you know, this was outed and the publicity helped in retaining these services. What all the decisions that are made go under the radar and aren't in the public domain, that if they were, maybe... Do you agree, by the way, that public pressure would force the Cialta Group to make a decision like this?
I hope so. I'd be a little less reticent than Paddy. I mean, effectively, Letterkenny is an unfortunate carbuncle on the backside of Cialta. We're a nuisance. We cause them problems, and they quite happily shut us down and shut down most of our services if they could. I mean, the breast service is an example. That had to have an awful lot of public support before it was able to continue. And I understand recently the second breast surgeon, after 4 or 5 years, the job has actually been formalised. The colorectal service, again, an awful lot of pressure had to be put on to maintain that. I mean, Cialta would quite happily bury Letterkenny. I mean, I gave a presentation.
Why, though? Why would they quite happily do so?
Because if they give us resources, it reduces what they can claw in for themselves. I mean, I gave a presentation at an orthopaedic meeting many years ago in Galway, and one of the slides was a large shark eating a number of small fish, the small fish being Castlebar, Letterkenny and Sligo, and that's what's happened. They have no interest in what goes on in Letterkenny, and I mean, if we try to bring on services and resources, we are blocked every which way we turn. Paddy was involved in the management, although he's retired some years now. He will tell you if he's how difficult it was to deal with anybody when you try to get services for Letterkenny. And the advent of Cialta means Galway have a power base and they're more than happy to use it.
And we can tease that out a little bit more with a follow-on, Claire. But, you know, I mean, you're like me. I shouldn't presume, but we haven't been sort of intimately involved in the hospital. But when you hear it from people that have, it's thankfully we have people that speak out and campaign as best they can to try and retain and enhance these types of services.
Yeah, I think that's really important because, as you say, Greg, people like myself and yourself who are not involved in the day-to-day life of the hospital, we have no idea about these processes and systems. And like any organisation, I'm sure there's a hierarchy, there's a management system. And my experience in any of these organisations is that, you know, Donegal is on the periphery. So whether you're talking business or you're talking health, you're talking education, we do seem to be, we don't want to be negative, but we do seem to be at the end of the list of priorities sometimes. So that's why, and I suppose that's that national experience. You know, when I visit family in Dublin or family and friends down the country, it's got Donegal's really, you know, you're always moaning about something, and you know, but it's really what it means is because that's how we're treated, we have to be very vociferous in our opinions and our campaign. So we do need people to speak out, and you know, I think part of that is, you know, forums like this morning are very important because it educates the rest of us as to where exactly we need to lend support to those who are batting on our behalf.
Yeah, well, we heard this week 87 nurses have resigned from the hospital recently, which suggests a recruitment and retention problem then. We're receiving daily calls and contacts, re-services there, people who access the services last year, pre-COVID, and now it's different. They feel it's more impersonal. They feel that they're not getting the same level of care. And of course, we'll throw in the caveat for the majority. Of course, the staff are fantastic and so on and so forth. And I'm not in any way playing that down, but I think that is a given. And of course, then the experience of ED, long waits, particularly bothers me for our older generation. I mean, Paddy, what is going on at the hospital? Then there's talk of a team going in to review all, whatever that might conclude. But from the outside looking on, it seems that things are disimproving there from not a terribly high base to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak, Greg, about what's going on because I'm out of the system now.
Well, that's it, and it's awkward. I'd be asking you this question, Paddy, if you never were involved in the hospital. Do you understand?
Okay, well, I'll tell you what. Then the precursor to this discussion, I think, there was 87 nurses was it left over the last 2-year period. Yeah. Is that right? I mean, I'm outside the system, so these figures aren't accurate, but they're round or about. I think the nursing profession make up around 750 staff out of a total staff of 2,000 within the hospital. So they're by far the biggest cohort of staff within the hospital. So nurses have been leaving the hospitals in Ireland for a long, long time, and this isn't new. One of the reasons is that young nurses, particularly ones of around 2 years post-registration, they do 2 years experience and then they go primarily to the Middle East and they go to Australia for the sun and the money and the lifestyle and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's a long, long time ago now since this is mental health or whatever, but I graduated as a nurse in October 1978 and I was in London in April 1980. So this is going on for a long, long time. And remember, 87 is only, that equates to about 44 per year. So 44 out of 750 is a relatively small number. But there is a whole load of other, to use Peter's metaphor, there's a whole load of sharks nibbling away at the nursing profession in the hospital. And you have, for instance, a lot of developmental posts that have come on place in the last 18 months for SAILTA, and this is through the Staunch Care programme. And they're around chronic disease management. And the nurses that had the experience and had the postgraduate qualifications, they're the ones that are getting these posts. And you may say to me, Greg, well, why are they getting them? Because there is no reservoir of nurses in the sky that's raining nurses. That's where the expertise is, and that's where they're taking.
Well, can I take you back, though? You talk about historically, we have a turnover. People do a couple of years and they go and live their life, or they might feel they're treated better elsewhere. But previously, presumably, there was a conveyor belt. So there was an equal or perhaps more amount of new nurses that would come through and do their 2 years before deciding to move on. Like, has that changed? Is there? No, I'm not saying that's the case, Paddy. It's a question. Has that changed?
Well, one of the things that's missing, you see, from this argument is then you're telling us that there's 87 nurses have left over the last 2 years, but I bet you $1, Greg, that there isn't 87 nurses left less in the hospital than there were 2 years ago. I bet you $1 that there's actually more. So I know that there's an issue about getting nurses because every hospital in the state is fighting for the same pool. But while people are leaving, people are also joining. I was just making the point, though, about where nurses are going. They're not all going to Australia. Some of them are going to developmental posts because chronic disease management is the big thing and it's the new thing. And they're all experienced and well-qualified nurses that are being used for this. The other factor, of course, as well, and it's always been a feature, is that nursing is predominantly a female profession. Nurses in the childbearing years, because access to childcare is so expensive and it's very difficult to get, that people reduce their hours. So if you get 10 nurses that decide to reduce their hours by 50%, 10 nurses become 5 nurses, and then you have 5 vacancies. You think that 5 people have resigned. They actually haven't. They've just morphed into half posts. The only way, Greg, that you would make any sense of any of this, if there was an exit interview done with those 87 nurses.
Yeah, I mentioned that point yesterday.
Where did they go? Yeah. And
otherwise, we are speculating, and the headline figure is shocking. But they could have gone to agencies. Presumably, they could be working in the hospital through an agency. I don't know. It depends whether. I don't know, but we just simply don't know. But Peter, do you see it the same way? Do you see it as this is the way it's at? I mean, if you read the article and then you see what's going on, you might think that they're at Letterkenny University Hospital and they're so exacerbated they fling off whatever overgarment they're wearing and say, right, well, I'm out of here. Enough is enough. But Paddy's explanation there is that this is something that we have seen, and in fact, we don't know the recruitment versus retirement stroke resignation figure, but maybe this is just the same old story.
Well, I can't disagree with anything Paddy said. I think money is one issue. You can go to North America or Australia and earn an awful lot more than you can in Ireland, literally multiples of what nurses earn in Ireland. So that gives them an incentive to travel. And Irish nurses are very well received in any country they go to because they're very well trained. That's one aspect of things. And the other aspect of things is that public hospitals train nurses, private hospitals don't. And the NTPF has put €1 billion at least in the last 10 or 12 years since the advent of Mary Harney into the private hospital sector. So there are probably maybe 50 or 30% more nurses working in Ireland than there were 10 or 15 years ago. But unfortunately, they're working in the private sector.
What's the solution to that, though? Because we have adverts running on this station. We've done interviews where they say, look, are you waiting? We've got the staff, we've got the space. We can effectively almost clear the backlogs in Donegal because we have the capacity and we have the staff. Is that the future of healthcare? Is that something that we need to address? Or is there any way we can improve it? Or what's going on, Peter?
Well, unfortunately, if we outsource all our healthcare to private hospitals, which is effectively what a lot of our politicians suggest we should be doing, then we won't have a hospital in Letterkenny. We'll have a community hospital. We won't have a general hospital. And that's the way things are going. I mean, if you cannot carry out, and surgery is what we're talking about here, because medicine always gets treated because medical problems are usually acute emergencies, so there's no delay in them. So we're talking about surgery. So if you outsource all your surgery, you won't get junior doctors to train as surgeons. You won't get senior doctors to work as surgeons. Then you won't have surgeons. If you don't have surgeons, you can't have an emergency department. So if you can't take out somebody's appendix or fix their broken wrist or their broken ankle, you can't do anything else. And unfortunately, if you outsource the big stuff like hip replacements, gallbladders and things like that, then there isn't going to be anybody there to do the small stuff. And I literally worry about what is going to happen to me in 25 or 30 years time if I'm still around, that who's going to be there to look after me? And I don't have any confidence that Letterkenny will be functioning as a proper general hospital by that stage.
Claire, I presume most of the people go into the hospital where possible, get excellent care and discharged and have a very good experience. And maybe those people are less inclined to contact the likes of myself or a radio station or a newspaper, what have you, and relate that. But I don't know if you get a sense from people that you talk to in their experience that everyone I speak to has a nervousness about potentially having to go there, whether that's for right or wrong, or has someone close to them that has had a negative experience. And if they could, they probably would try and get into Sligo. Now, I'm not sure if that's a public perception or a reality or what it's based on, but do you get that yourself in your conversations out and about?
100%. And I suppose I'm at a bit of a disadvantage in that the two gentlemen know the hospital better than me. But in advance of today, I did speak to some nurses. And actually, I'm from a family of nurses. There's 7 nurses in my family, and they work in various hospitals, and some are retired. But what really struck me is that in my family, when we talk about the medical profession, or we talk about the health service in general, and 4 of these nurses are now retired, and they all trained in Scotland and came home. But when I would talk to them growing up, we'd talk about nursing. It was a fantastic profession, very, very respected. And the local nurse, the nurse living in the village or whatever, was so respected and so part of the community, and so very much needed and very much respected. When I talk now to younger nurses, women now my age or friends of mine, there's no conversation about any positivity, because it's only negative that I hear, in the sense that they're very burnt out, they're very stretched, they get calls to come in on their day off. Like, I don't know any other profession, yours or mine, Greg, where regularly, week after week after week, you get a call to come in to relieve, to help your colleagues. So I think that the burnout that they experience, because their role seems to be stretched and more is laid upon them, And at the same time, they feel, from the 2 or 3 that I was speaking to, they feel very much under pressure in the role. And it's the burnout that has made them look to change. They're still nurses, but they're going elsewhere. They're going across the border, or they're going into community roles or whatever. And it's really because it's not that they don't love working in the hospital. It's not that they don't love their patients, but they feel very much in a physical sense and a mental sense that they can't do anymore. They can't keep going at this rate of work. So when I talk to my aunts about, you know, their experience of nursing, and I talk to my contemporaries about their experience of nursing, there is a huge chasm. So what has happened for the nursing profession that they're so under pressure? And I feel, speaking to them, that that's not necessarily a Letterkenny problem. That's obviously a national problem. So in terms of how, and I don't know, was that a management problem? Because I don't know enough about the hospital, but I think certainly the nursing profession is under huge pressure.
It's difficult to have a conversation about what this is about management or you know, the next level of management up or decisions from Dublin. It's very hard to ever get to the bottom of that. Like it would be very simple in a private company. If there was problems in your company or this company, it's very easy to determine who is responsible, and people would be comfortable having that conversation. When it gets to talking about the hospital, not so much. Before we go to the break and move on to the next subject, then I'll ask you, Peter, in your experience and for what you fear might be coming, how is that hospital run, and is there one thing we could do, either internally or externally, to improve what's going on there?
I think the public certainly have reacted to various things that have happened over the years, but it doesn't appear that the politicians are listening to us. I mean, if you take the cardiac catheterization lab as an example, Waterford have one which is working 9 to 5. They want one which now works 24 hours a day, plus another one that works 9 to 5, because otherwise the poor people from Waterford would have to travel to Cork to get treatment. Yet you had Micheál Martin a couple of weeks ago in the media talking about how wonderful the service we get from Altnagelvin is, because one patient he knew of who had a STEMI, which is an acute blockage of a coronary artery, travelled to Derry to get treatment. So, I mean, I think we suffer from the proximity to the border and a lot of political will, which thinks that we should be availing of services in a different country and different jurisdiction rather than actually developing services here. And that's a wall we've been banging our heads against for the 25 years I've been working at Letterkenny.
Yeah, and in that conversation with Mr. Canavan, he said quite clearly, part of living in Donegal is that you probably have to travel for services. You know, it's accepted. It wasn't that we're trying to get stuff here or there. It's just that the reality of living in Donegal is that you may have to travel for certain health services, and that's just the way it is.
Not when you live in Waterford, obviously.
Yeah, okay. Paddy, do you see, there's no silver bullet to any of this though, but in your experience, was there one particular frustration from your time in management there, or is there, what could be done to turn things around?
The biggest frustration that hospital management have, and I know, Peter, that you share a bit of this as well, is that there is an expectation in the health service that the hospital has to do it all. It can't do it all. You can actually double the bed capacity in every hospital in the country, but if you leave things the way that they are, things will be as bad as ever in 2 years' time. There are a lot of people that are using hospital services that don't need to use them, but they have to use them because there's no alternative. Then there are people who are in hospital and then they can't be got out because there's nowhere for them to go or nobody to look after them. The route in and the route out has to be fixed as well. No hospital in the state every hospital in the state is in trouble, and there's no point us putting us forward some kind of a message here about the fact that Letterkenny is any different than anything else, because I don't think it is.
But the problems are more acute in the likes of Letterkenny and Limerick, aren't they?
Yeah, well, Galway is particularly bad, and I know the University College Hospital in Cork's bad. I don't very often share anything on Twitter, but I did, was it yesterday or the day before that, about a patient who videoed an episode in the emergency department in Hounslow Hospital in North London. You didn't see that doing the rounds, Greg?
I saw it on your Twitter.
You did. Where a nurse in charge came out to the waiting room in the emergency department and with a clipboard and the waiting list was packed. And I know this hospital because I worked in North London myself, not in that one. It's much bigger than Letterkenny. It's about 600 beds. She talked about something that there was 280 people waiting. There was 90 hadn't seen the doctor. There was 60 waiting for a bed. The hospital was full. She was going off for duty. She was going to come back in 10 hours time, and she expected to see everybody that was in the waiting room. She expected them to be there when she came back, and she advised them to either go home or go to their GP or to be prepared for a wait. And Claire made the point of people going across the border. Good luck to them, Claire, is all I have to say, because if anybody knows anything about Alton Galvin, their problems around ED wait times, ambulances backed up at the ED, all of that kind of stuff is replicated in Letterkenny all over the place. It's the grass is not green.
All right, okay.
It
might not be right, but Bud, okay, we were speaking to many women and their partners recently who said that now, if you have a suspected miscarriage, or in some cases you are actually miscarrying, that you are waiting in AD. We were speaking to people that are there for 3 or 4 hours. That wasn't the way it was before. Are you saying that's how we get people into hospital and get people out? Because that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about, right? That's the patient experience that I was trying to sort of get across. That's not right.
No, I'm not trying to get the impression that everything is perfect in Letterkenny, because I feel it isn't. And I'm actually surprised to hear that, because when I'm out of the place now over 4 years, but the experience, the admission policy that there was for women in a distress state to access the gynae services, that went straight to the gynae ward. I don't
in through
know
the front door.
I'm not sure what happened. No, I don't know. They were bypassed ED completely. I'm not sure.
Another person I'm speaking to, they're in a wheelchair and require assistance. In with one individual, that individual has to leave, and the person would be left there. This is the kind of patient experience as well, and that's what we're talking about, Claire. That's when I was talking to you about, and I appreciate you going and speaking to the nurses too. It was a brilliant insight, but it's how people feel they're being treated in there. Not in and this is not across the board, but we contacted the HSE about the situation with women having to go into ED with suspected or actually miscarrying, having a miscarry, and it was like, well, we're sorry to hear about that. They can make a complaint. There was no reference to, right, well, this is why it's happening, this is what we're going to do. The response accepted it and said they can make a complaint. If they don't like the answer, they can complain to the ombudsman.
That's just shocking. I can't imagine being in that position and having to be forced to sit in a waiting room for 4 hours when, in actual fact, your end destination is going to be the same place. You're going to be going to gynae. I don't understand why that's happening. I have no idea. Didn't know until you shared that, Greg, that was even happening, but I'm actually quite shocked, because that's just prolonging someone's distress. I actually think that's horrendous. I really do. I don't, I would imagine that somewhere along the line, somebody's made a decision on paper and they haven't thought it through, but really, we should be a lot more vocal about that. That's horrendous.
All right, listen, thank you for your time so far. That's the voice there of Claire McDonough. We also have Paddy Rooney and Dr. Peter O'Rourke on the programme. We'll hear more from them after we take this break. Keep your texts coming in, by the way.
I'm Sam Shedd, Power Tool Protector Garden Angel. A mess on the inside, but I know what I saw outside. A cat, no, a man burglar, hopped Sam's back hedge and stole his bike. He couldn't believe it, but FBD did. With no excess to pay, they'll get him back in the saddle. After all, sure, support is what FBD do. Visit fbd.ie today to save 25% on your new home insurance quote. €650 limit per theft claim for owner-occupier contents in the open cover. Specified all risks required for items over this value. Claim will affect no claims bonus. Terms and conditions apply. Underwritten by FBD Insurance plc, FBD Insurance Group Limited Trading as FBD Insurance is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Due to continued expansion, Watson Hire in Letterkenny have a vacancy for a mechanic and plant fitter. Work will include maintenance and repair of plant hire, tools and equipment. Experience with diesel, petrol and electrical machinery will be important. A full driver's licence and basic computer knowledge is essential. This position is full-time and offers a competitive salary. To apply, send your CV to jobs@watsonhire.ie.
At Creaseless Supermarket, we are renowned for offering quality and value for all your convenience needs. We have expanded and are now offering a full on-post service. Pay a bill, send a package, or lodge into a bank account. Our on-post service is available Monday to Saturday. Creasler Supermarket. We're here for you.
The Inishowen Vintage Club will host the IVS All-Ireland Rally, a family fun day not to be missed, with hundreds of vintage cars and tractors on display. There's lawnmower racing, a fun fair, children's sports day, fashion show, trade stands and lots more at Carrickfield Moville, Sunday 12th of June, the biggest show in town.
Tickets are now on sale for Century Complex VIP meal deal, which includes a 2-course meal and backstage, admission to selected movies in Century Cinema's VIP screens, a combo with popcorn, soft drink and a free refill, all for $33.95 per person. For further information and to get your tickets, visit centurycinemas.ie.
Okay, you're very welcome back to the 9 till noon show here on Highland Radio. It's good to have you on board. Don't forget you can watch the programme on our website, highlandradio.com. It was confirmed yesterday by the ECB that interest rate rises are on the horizon. Fuel prices are going through the roof. We'll start really feeling the impact once again for the majority, I think, when the impact on oil prices as we head towards autumn and into winter. Food prices also continue to rise. Claire, just from your perspective as an individual and as a business owner, even those with money, I think when things begin to become more expensive, the discretionary spending slows down. Is that something that's on your mind, or do you feel on the horizon? Not even necessarily for your own individual business, but maybe just speaking, on behalf of the business community as a whole?
Well, I'd be lying if I said it was all rosy in the garden, and the positivity is rife. I think everybody's concerned, whether you're a homeowner, whether you're a business owner. I think from a business perspective, and we in the chamber are very much about ensuring that we are a strong voice for business, and try to make sure we articulate as many of the concerns for business in all of the various places that we do, from national government right down. But I think in relation to where Donegal and where Letterkenny sits now, facing into the end of the year, as if I hear the end of the year is going to be tough one more time, I think I'd like to scream. But I think, the resilience that business has shown, particularly in Letterkenny and Donegal, over the last 2 years throughout the COVID pandemic, has been extraordinary. And if there's one thing that I am very confident about, is that the fact from the businesses I deal with on a daily basis within my own business and then throughout the chamber, is that there's a huge amount of peer support there. It's one of the things that I think Letterkenny Chamber does really, really well. And we have a very good support group there on WhatsApp for over 170 businesses. Not all of them are members, but the majority are. So I think, daily I'm on that group, and I can see where people are having difficulty with customs charges, or they're having difficulty with maybe delivery or fuel or getting things from A to B, whatever. And the amount of help and peer support that's on there is phenomenal. So I think at least one thing in our favour is that we have a great
that's while the customers are still spending.
Well, they are still spending, but I do think a bit like the recession that we lived through when we had just started our business, I think every business and every household will begin, if they're not already, looking at where they're spending their any excess money that they do have. I think people are going to make much more sensible decisions around journeys, around heating their homes and all of that sort of thing. I think we're all going to be a little more careful, but I think where the squeeze is really going to become evident, I suppose, is I think after Christmas. That's where I think things are going to get a little bit tighter. Having said that, I don't think there's an awful lot that you or I can do sitting in Letterkenny when we're looking at an energy crisis and huge geopolitical ongoings. At the same time, I think when we look at some of the resources we have here to help us get through difficult times, I think that's the best place to start. And what I would encourage any business who's having any difficulty getting information or support or signposting, there are organisations there not just the chamber, but the Leo office. There's Donegal Women in Business. There's lots of different organisations there that no business owner should be facing crisis or worry on their own. I think the sooner you plan for things, the better. So that's what I would encourage people to do.
Yeah, and I think there's never been a better network than there is now. It's just tap into it if you feel you need to.
Absolutely. And just on that, sorry, Greg. Just
carry on.
If anybody is thinking about the chamber and wanting to get involved, we are having a coffee morning or a sort of a meet the chamber event. We do these quite regularly, but we're having a sort of an informal come for a cup of coffee to the theatre next Wednesday morning at 10 o'clock. And that's literally just have a cup of coffee. Most of the chamber board, or a lot of us, will be there to talk to, but also Tony, the CEO, will be there as well. But just if you want to come along and get a bit of support, ask a question about anything, please do. Obviously, we're hoping that you would become a member, but you don't have to be. Our key aim really is to get people talking and get business owners out there, particularly I think sole traders or anybody who's in business on their own. It can be a lonely place, and if you're worried about things, there's nowhere better to start than a cup of coffee with a friendly face.
Yeah, simple as that. Paddy, where do you feel we're going with, as I said earlier on, the rise in interest rates? We haven't seen that for an awful long time. Fuel and food prices. And interesting, we heard from Deputy Pearse Doherty yesterday, because obviously one of the things we instantly focus on fuel prices, because I think it's so, it covers everyone and it's so in your face. He said at the moment, even if the government had the will, they could maximum cut fuel petrol price by 13 cents in terms of the excise, diesel by 9. So in terms of even what the government could do on something like that there, the wiggle room, unless they get derogation, is very, very narrow. Of course, food prices continue to increase. Some of that can be offset with getting different products, and I'm trying that myself as best as possible. But it's getting tight already for people, or at least the perception that it's getting tight. And of course, that then affects people and how they think, and potentially, Paddy, how they spend.
Well, it's getting tight, and it's getting probably dangerous as well, Greg, because when we had the recession that started off in around 2008 and it blew up very badly in around 2009, 10, 11, that was solely around sort of economic issues and market bubbles and stuff like that. This is a different kettle of fish here, because we have a combination of that and the war in Ukraine. People that are addicted to alcohol, Greg, never really care about the price of it. They really care about the availability of it. Mm-hmm. And with all of the sanctions that's taken place with Russia, with their gas and their oil, the price of fuel, it's inevitable that it's going to go up. There could be a problem about the availability of it as well. I don't know, is any of the three of you old enough to remember back in the 1973, was it when the war was...
No one's going to put their hand up, Paddy.
No, I wasn't born, Paddy, sorry, I wasn't born.
I was there. Well, I was anyway, and I'll tell you...
I think that was more out of respect for Peter than to suggest, Claire, maybe you were born in 73.
Peter's only a young fella, yeah. And so there's an issue with the availability of it and the price of it. I mean, I got 3 bags of smokeless fuel, and I was always getting it from the one supplier, and it was consistently €48. And I was told recently that the next time when I get a delivery, if I can get it, it's going to be €90. So there is no way, I think, that the government can actually chase inflation.
And you know, ironically, I'm seeing more turf cut than I've ever seen before.
Yes.
Because people haven't cut turf for years, are out cutting turf. And the reason I see that is ironic, if that's the right way of putting it, of course, because we've had the big conversation this year about Eamon Ryan and the rest of the government, but particularly Eamon Ryan, trying to reduce the amount of turf.
You know, that's not to say that Eamon Ryan was doing the wrong thing, because the environment is there too. We can't forget about that. We've been lulled into a false sense of security, Greg, over the last 25 years. And Claire will be very, very familiar with this. So will Peter, of course, is the fact that we've had very low interest rates and money has been freely available to borrow. We can more or less put our hand out over the last 25 years and anything. If we can afford it, we can get it. But 2 things is going to happen now for sure. Is one of the prices are going to dramatically increase, and we're talking about 10 to 12% year on year for about 3 or 4 years. That's going to be some hike. And the other thing is the things that we thought that were readily available to us, now we won't be able to get it. There's going to be an issue about electricity. That was going to be a problem anyway. There's going to be an issue about gas and coal and fuel. And there's also going to be an issue about food. Now, one of the times we always thought, well, food supply was an issue for Africa and so on and so forth. But if you follow and heed all the warnings about what's happening to grain supplies in southern Russia and Ukraine, Kevin Bradley was on your program a few weeks ago, the owner of Highland Bakery, and said that they had to try and source around for new flour supplies because they were going to run out. Well, you see those pizzas that we order and the tapas and so on and so forth, they mightn't necessarily be there anymore.
Yeah, and the pasta and
all of the above. And that's how difficult this is going to get.
Well, let me ask you, Peter. You can talk to what Claire and Paddy talked about as well. But we hear that, and from Vladimir Putin himself, and the Americans have conceded this as well, that he's actually making more money now, profits through oil and gas, than he was before the war, because the sanctions cutting down supply. And then he makes more profit because we are still effectively sourcing it from there, even though we state we're not, and we're trying to avoid doing so. Do we have to then have a rethink or maybe start talking about the decisions our world leaders are making? Because if they're sanctioning Russia to try and halt his war machine, but it's pushing 1.6 billion people into starvation effectively. The price of living is skyrocketing, but Russia is making more money now than they did pre-sanctions. Well, do we need to start asking questions, or is this just the situation when you're in a war?
I think it's more simplistic than that. The sanctions are, to a degree, to affect the Russian government, but it's also the Russian people, because the Russian people are the ones who can stop Putin. We can't. So, all the world companies that have pulled out of Russia, the fact that Russian shops are even worse than ours, that there's less in them, I think that will be what puts pressure on Putin and the Russians to actually stop. If there weren't sanctions and everybody just sort of said, go ahead and do what you like, he would have pushed through and done much worse things, and possibly even used nuclear weapons in Ukraine, and to be pushing to take over the entire country rather than just the Donbass region. He first attacked Kiev, which was the capital. He tried to decapitate the government by taking out Vladimir Zelensky. So I think sanctions are the only thing that the world can do, short of attacking him and actually fighting a direct war against him.
Yeah, okay, listen, thanks for your views on that. We have to catch up with one more break. That was Peter O'Rourke, Claire McDonough and Paddy Rooney. We'll be back shortly.
Get cash for trash at Curry's. Bring your old, broken, unwanted tech into your local Curry store this month. We'll recycle it for free and give you €5 off your next purchase. Plus, with mega deals now on, we've got massive savings across the store. So get into your local Curry store today. T's and C's apply. See website for details.
Happy Father's Day.
This Father's Day, choose Calvin Klein, Chanel, Hugo Boss, Burberry, Lacoste, Giorgio Armani. Choose McGee's Chemist, Main Street, Letterkenny. Great gifts for great dads. Click mcgees.ie.
New this week in Home Store and More. All summer duvets are half price. But better hurry, because when all our half-price summer duvets are gone, they're gone. Also, all outdoor cushions are still half price. But when all our half-price outdoor cushions are gone, they're definitely gone. Order online before 2 p.m. for next day delivery, or drop by your local Home Store and More. Home Store and More. A happy home.
We love summer at Dunnes Stores with fresh picnic ideas, any two for €4. Think tasty salads like fruity couscous 200 gram, paired with our Cajun chicken breast slices 140 gram and our range of Irish ham slices. Mix and match any two for €4. Plus, with our 10 off 50 grocery voucher, you save even more. Which means every trip to Dunnes Stores means better value. Dunnes Stores, always better value. Terms and conditions apply. Voucher can be used on next grocery shop of €50 or more.
At Cooney's Home Interiors, we pride ourselves on offering you the very best in choice, quality and value on all home furnishings. Treat your home with a visit to Cooney's today and choose from our large range of suites, tables, beds, not to mention our large selection of home accessories. Our motto is, if you see it, you can buy it, and we will deliver it to your door. Cooney's Home Interiors, Letterkenny Retail Park. Style and perfection at incredible value.
A caller says, I worked in Letterkenny University Hospital for nearly 3 decades. What puzzles me about things is that Paddy Rooney was part of the management and senior top 2 while these problems you talk about today were happening. It just annoys me, Highland asking him for solutions. Pity didn't he use these answers when he was in a position... I suppose, I didn't want to read that out after 10. I probably wouldn't, Paddy, without you having an opportunity to respond to that. But do you understand the tone of the question and what's your response to it?
No, I don't mind anybody saying that.
Oh, I know, that's why I asked it.
But I'm giving it, and Peter may or may not support me on this, but just because they people might think that the hospital management are in control of everything that takes place within the hospital, but that quite clearly is not the case. Look at the very simple thing around the decision around the cardiac cath. If Sean Murphy had the decision to put that service in place, we wouldn't even be talking about that. You can't do anything in the hospital at all without getting approval from above. It's not the manager's fault in the hospital that the ED is full of patients that shouldn't be there because there's nowhere else. It's not his fault that they've all these number of delayed discharge because there's nowhere to go. The management in the hospitals up and down the country are caught in this whirlwind as well, because it is a complex, systematic problem that involves primary care, secondary care, and tertiary care, and hospitals cannot do this themselves. But I will concede the point, though. There are the small points, though, in the couple of examples that you give.
Well, here's one. We were in the ED last week because my partner has lung cancer and had one side effect similar to COVID and was told he had to go to the COVID section. So should common sense not come into the equation at this point? I'm not asking you to comment on that specifically.
I can't possibly answer that because I'm out of the hospital too long, and it was. I know that there's a red zone and a green zone for people that were potentially COVID positive and potentially negative, and I presume that's why this poor man was put into that funnel. I don't even know is that there, and I don't even know enough about how that was channeled, but that was about protection of other patients as well. I suppose it was an infection control measure. I don't know enough about it. But there are decisions that hospital management can take locally, but there is a whole raft of things that they have actually no control over. They have to just sail in the water that's been determined by other people outside of the hospital.
Yeah.
But then that's the system's faulty then, Peter.
Yes, but that's what I've been saying for years.
I just wanted to hear it one more time.
What Paddy says is true. I've was involved in management for about 18 or 19 up to 25 years I worked in the hospital. You were banging your head off a brick wall. We all knew what the problems were. We all knew what the solutions were.
How much blowback did you get from speaking out?
Absolutely none.
All right.
I got a bit of satisfaction because I vented my spleen. But, it's. I'll give you 2 or 3 examples. Mary Harney sort of suggested that we should do more surgery and day surgery rather than an inpatient to reduce the pressure on beds. We all transferred the patients to day surgery, but we got no facilities to do it. We have a cancer service in Letterkenny, which is great, but there was no support for diagnostics for it. Letterkenny needs to have a diagnostics department in X-ray, which works 8 to 8, 6 days a week, not 9 to 5, 5 days a week. We have a cardiac investigations department that works 9 to 5. It should be working 8 to 8, 6 days a week, and that would reduce the pressure on beds. These are the sort of things that make a difference. But the management, I'm sure, would agree with me that those sort of things would benefit the hospital. But do you think there's anybody in the hospital who can actually achieve that or develop that? No. So all that happens is we get told by Galway or politicians in Dublin that you have to get people through the emergency department in 2 hours. But it's physically impossible. So it's like turning water into wine. It's a miracle, and miracles don't happen very often. But this is what politicians and senior HSE people tell you to do without giving you any resources to do it. And that's why it's frustrating, and that's why people like me retire early.
Yeah, well,
and Greg, can I just make a point here to support that? When I went to work in the hospital first, there was 1 orthopedic surgeon and possibly 3 general surgeons and 3 gynecologists and so on and so forth. And there is multiples of those there now that people that Peter will confirm. The only problem is that the theatre capacity upstairs on floor 5, there's still only 4 theatres there. So when you had 8 surgeons from different disciplines accessing the theatre. Now you might have 22 surgeons accessing 4 theatres. That's not a surprise to hospital management. We've been banging away at that kind of stuff there about increasing theatre capacity, but it's going up the line and just people aren't listening. And that's something that's been replicated in every hospital around the country, by the way.
I mean, Claire, again, it's not hugely encouraging what we're hearing. It's interesting to get the insight, very interesting, in fact, and it's the most important voices on this because, again, we see, elements of it, but now we're sort of getting the curtains being pulled back a bit. We're getting an insight into it. It's maybe probably more pessimistic than optimistic. What's your view, Claire? And Paddy, you can come back on that if I'm wrong.
Yeah. It is really interesting to get that view because you and I, in a sense, Greg, are the lay people where, and that caller that rang over that story, the poor man with the lung cancer, like we hear these stories all the time. Like I had a friend whose husband had a cyst on his back last week or the week before, and he went to have it drained in the hospital. He was told to go and get it dressed with his GP. He went to the GP. The GP said, "Oh no, we won't touch that," and they sent him back to A&E, and he had to wait there 4 hours to have it dressed, for a dressing in A&E for 4 hours. Like, there's something badly wrong, and I don't have the answer. I'm not medical. I don't have the answer, but I would imagine that the answer isn't in fact medical. The answer is systematic.
Right,
about processes.
No, yeah, Greg, just the point I was going to make here, and Peter will support me on this as well, is that Claire, you're a member of the Chamber of Commerce, and most of the organisations that you represent, private organisations, they can the management and the owners of those companies can actually determine the job description and the contract of employment for your staff. Hospital managers and chief executives up and down the country cannot do that because job specifications, job descriptions, contracts are all determined nationally. So Peter made the point there about cardiac investigations, which is a very, very good point. But the cardiac technicians come into the hospital on a contract that's been determined nationally that deems that they work 9 to 5 Monday to Friday. Yeah. And the managers and chief executives of hospitals up and down the country can stand on their head from now to Christmas and they won't get that.
Okay, so that's some of the big stuff. But Peter, a lot of what people have issues with is the little stuff that management locally have presumably within their gift to run the hospital slightly differently. And I think if they got some of the seemingly on the wider scale of what you guys have talked about, the little stuff correct, it might go a long way for people having more empathy with what's going on in the hospital more broadly, if that makes sense.
It's what you say sounds right, but in practical terms, achieving it is extremely difficult because the problem is if you for instance, if you have the example about somebody who needed a dressing, if you set up somewhere for them to do that dressing, you have to take staff from somewhere else to actually do it, which means that something else suffers. And if I use an example as, say, our cancer services, we have great cancer services. We started off with one oncologist. I think we have 3 or possibly even 3.5 now oncologists, which means they're treating a vast number of more patients. All those patients require investigations. So the CT scanner and the MRI scanner are used probably about 50%, if not more of the time, for cancer patients. Whereas other people, like if you have back pain, you could be waiting 6 to 9 months to get an MRI scan or a CT scan. So the problem is, if you take more slices out of the cake, the slices get smaller and something gets squeezed. And what happens is the things that were done before, which is general surgery, orthopedics, they get squeezed and their services
Every action has a reaction. Dr. Peter O'Rourke, thank you so much for your time this morning. I really appreciate it. Take care of yourself. Also, Paddy Rooney, thank you very much indeed, as always.
Okay,
take care of yourself. And Claire, me and you kind of passengers on this one, but you made some great comments and had some great input, and I really appreciate your time. But interesting, I think we both agree, don't we, and the listeners might as well, to sort of get that insight into what's going on. Listen, chat to you soon, Claire. Thanks very much.
Greg.
Take
Bye.
care. Bye-bye. Okay, that was the Friday panel there. I'll get to some of your comments after the news at 10, which will be delayed by about a minute. My apologies. Rejoin us, or stay with us, for the news and obituary notices, and then we'll be right back.
Beat the cost of Brexit with no customs charges. Do you need a UK address for your limited company or personal use? Space Hub in Derry can provide you with your own mailbox. Have your post and parcels delivered to Space Hub and collect at your convenience. There's brand new 20-foot shipping containers now in stock, ideal for all your storage needs at our Springtown and Coolmore depots. Find us on Facebook at spacehubderry.com or call 04871 878077 for more details.
Going on holidays this summer? Look the part in any of the new Donegal jerseys, home and away. From Brian McCormick Sports and Leisure, your official O'Neill stockists. New Donegal GAA Nevada range, now in store and online. Donegal Nevada t-shirts with matching shorts. Donegal Nevada quarter zips, hoodies and jackets in fresh new summer colours. Available in junior and adult sizes. Look the part, play the part. In store or online. Click and collect on bmcsports.ie.
Brave lives behind every open sign, behind every add to cart or how would you like to pay today? At AIB Merchant Services, we back Brave with payments and business solutions designed to fit your business needs, whether that's in-store, online or on the go. To discover more about how AIB Merchant Services can grow your business, search AIBMS.com. AIB, we back Brave. First Merchant Processing Ireland DAC Trading as AIB Merchant Services is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
When it comes to searching for a holiday, Atlantic Travel and Letterkenny deal with all the major tour operators from Dublin and Belfast to find you the best deals available. A week in the sun, a cruise, or maybe a short break. Whatever suits, you can book in confidence with Atlantic, knowing your holiday is protected should something go wrong. Take the hassle and worry out of your holiday booking with the award-winning Atlantic Travel, St Oliver Plunkett Road, Letterkenny. For a quote today, see Facebook, visit atlantictravel.ie or call 9126193.
Walk the line once again with the multi-award-winning Johnny Cash and June Carter tribute show Cash Returns. Celebrate the music of the Man in Black at the Millennium Forum Derry on Saturday 18th of June. Limited tickets are available now at the box office. That's Cash Returns live at the Millennium Forum Derry on Saturday the 18th of June.
Live, on air, online and on the Highland Radio app. This is Highland Radio News.
Good morning, just gone 10 o'clock. Donald Kavanagh at the Highland Radio News Desk. A former orthopaedic surgeon at Letterkenny University Hospital says the more that surgical services are contracted out to private hospitals, the more of a risk there is that the hospital will be downgraded. Peter O'Rourke says the more surgical services are scaled back at the facility, the more of a threat there is to the hospital's future. Speaking on the 9 till noon show with Greg Hughes today, Mr. O'Rourke said he fears that the situation in 25 to 30 years may be very different.
If you outsource all your surgery, you won't get junior doctors to train as surgeons. You won't get senior doctors to work as surgeons. Then you won't have surgeons. If you don't have surgeons, you can't have an emergency department. And I literally worry about what is going to happen to me in 25 or 30 years' time if I'm still around. Who's going to be there to look after me? And I don't have any confidence that Letterkenny will be functioning as a proper general hospital by that stage.
The mother of Danielle McLaughlin, who was killed in Goa 5 years ago, says she is hopeful of a quick conclusion of the trial of the man accused of her rape and murder. It follows a high-level meeting in India between Goa's chief minister and two high-level diplomats from Ireland and Britain. Danielle had been travelling on a British passport at the time of the attack. Donna Marie Doherty has more details.
VCAT Bagat is accused of the rape and murder of Buncrana woman Danielle McLaughlin, who was found dead on March 14th, 2017. Her mother, Andrea Brannigan, told the Irish Daily Star she is hopeful that yesterday's meeting will help speed up the trial of VCAT Bagat, which began in April 2018 but has been beset by delays. The Consul General of Ireland, Gerry Kelly, and Britain's Deputy High Commissioner in Western India met with Goa's Chief Minister to seek the quick conclusion of the trial. Mr Kelly gave the Chief Minister a letter from Miss Brannigan requesting that the trial be expedited and expressing her fear that she will never get justice for Danielle. In a joint statement issued after the meeting, Mr Kelly and the Deputy High Commissioner said ensuring a quick conclusion to the trial is a significant priority for the two governments as well as for Danielle's family.
The Social Democrats are calling on the government to introduce a mini budget following the publication of CSO figures which show inflation at a 38-year high. The party says the historic inflation rate, coupled with the announcement that interest rates are on the way up in the coming weeks, will compound the financial difficulties already facing many families. Meanwhile, the St Vincent de Paul organisation is reporting a 20% increase in requests for help this year, with the Society's president in Donegal saying she expects a further surge in appeals for help in the autumn. The co-leader of the Social Democrats, Roisin Shortall, says the government must establish an emergency fund immediately to help those most at risk.
What is desperately needed now is an emergency fund to be established, because there are people who are going to go under as a result of these price hikes and as a result of inflation. And the government needs to set up that fund so that it's available for those families that are most at risk.
And ministers are concerned over what they consider a lack of urgency to transfer state-owned land to the Land Development Agency. There are plans to build 15,000 new homes on state property over the coming years to deal with the housing crisis. The Cabinet's been told some agencies are dragging their heels when it comes to transferring land. Managing Director of Tom Phillips Associates, Tom Phillips, says the absence of a central database of state land isn't helping.
In the supply and demand delivery equation that you have to bring housing forward is to understand what land is available, because there isn't a central repository that is one place you can go and say that's all the state land. So some of the land, they're actually having to work out what is actually state-owned land. And that's a very slow process, but it's one that needs to be given the resources to happen very quickly. So to actually understand what the land is in the first place before you can go and talk to the various parties that might be able to help to deliver it.
Weather forecast and Met Éireann tell us it will remain windy and blustery today with widespread showers mixed with brighter sunny intervals. Some of those showers will turn heavy during the day with a chance of some isolated thunderstorms. Top temperatures 16 to 18 degrees Celsius, strong and gusty southwest winds. The showers will continue overnight with clear spells developing. Temperatures of 9 to 12 degrees Celsius in fresh southwest breezes, strong near the coast. Tomorrow Saturday we'll see further widespread showers or longer spells of rain with some sunny spells. The odd heavy downpour can be expected on Saturday in highest temperatures of 14 to 16 degrees Celsius. Once again, it'll be breezy or windy with strong southwest winds veering westerly. That's Highland Radio News. We're back with news again at 11 o'clock.
Obituary notices for Friday morning, June 10th. The death has taken place of Ruby Slavin, née Duffy, 25 Ingleside Drive, Strabane, reposing at her home from 6 p.m. this evening. Funeral from there on Sunday afternoon at 10:20 for Mass in the Church of the Immaculate Conception, Strabane at 2 p.m, followed by interment in Strabane Cemetery. Donations in lieu of flowers, please, to the Friends of Cancer Centre, care of Quigley Funeral Directors. The Requiem Mass can be viewed on mcnmedia.tv. The death has taken place of Katie Grant, née Patton, Gordani, Quigley's Point. Katie's remains will repose at her home from 3 p.m. today. Katie's funeral mass will take place on Sunday at 12 noon in St Columba's Church Strong, followed by burial in the adjoining cemetery. Family flowers only, please. Funeral mass can be viewed live on stcolumbasstrong.net. The death has taken place of Vincent Conlon, Fernbank, Maharanenan, Letterkenny. Vincent's remains will repose at the home of his daughter Dorina. At Vincent's request, the house is strictly private to family only. Funeral service will take place at the Church of the Irish Martyrs, Letterkenny, tomorrow afternoon at 1 p.m. There will be a private family cremation at the Lakelands Crematorium, Cavan. The death has taken place of Jerry Lynott, Larissa Lodge Nursing Home, Letterkenny, formerly of Montgomery Terrace, Maville. His remains are reposing at his home in Montgomery Terrace. Jerry's funeral mass will take place tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. in St Pius X Church, Maville, followed by burial in Ballybrack Cemetery. Mass can be viewed live on mavilleparish.com. The death has taken place of Thomas Gibson, Ballybow, Convoy. His remains are reposing at Terence McClintock's funeral premises. Funeral from there this afternoon at 2 p.m. for 2:30 p.m. funeral service in St Ninian's Parish Church Convoy, followed by burial in the family plot in the adjoining graveyard. Wake strictly private to family only. Family flowers only, please. The death has occurred of Patrick Joseph Murphy, Fulcara. His remains are reposing at his sister Margaret's home in Fulcara. Removal this morning to St Finian's Church, Fulcara for 11 a.m. Requiem Mass. Burial afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. House private before the funeral. Mass can be viewed live on mcmmedia.tv. The death has taken place of Daniel Kern, known as Terence, formerly of 5 Calais Road, Calais. Reposing overnight at the Church of the Immaculate Conception, Calais, for Requiem Mass this morning at 11 a.m. Interment afterwards in St Columba's Cemetery, Drung. Family flowers only, please. For more details, including any family health guidelines for wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.com.
Okay, you're very welcome back to the second hour of the show, or you're very welcome to the programme. Good to have you on board. Coming up a little later on, we are going to ease you into the weekend by not talking about anything too serious. Michael and Finley are going to be joining us, and we've got guests as well. We're going to get the weather, the week's weather for you as much as we can determine. That's all between 11 and 12. On Tuesday, we have a special guest on the programme, Mr. Garth Brooks. He was on this programme a number of years ago, ahead of his doomed Croke Park gigs previously. They're going to go ahead this time, though. And he'll be joining us on the show on Tuesday. So that'll be a wee treat for you, as many of you, thousands of you, will be gearing up to go down and see him perform in September. And we understand that if you didn't get a ticket, that there might be some positive news in that regard in terms of further tickets being made available. But anyway, be that as it may, Mr. Garth Brooks will be with us on Tuesday. Right, we've a lot to get through, including your comments. I have hundreds of them here. I really appreciate it. We have loads and loads, and I get through as many of them as I possibly can. Some are sort of duplicates, but we don't filter them. We just try and get them out to you as we get them in. But what we'll do is we'll take a break for the bingo numbers, then a short ad break, come back, and we'll move on with the programme, including your comments and guests.
It's time for NCBI Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Friday the 10th of June. You're playing on the yellow sheet. The reference number is S15. It's game number 23. The numbers are 73, 68, 65, 48, 85, 31, 59, 29, 62, and finally 38. Phone your claim to 9104833 before 8 tonight, leaving your name, contact number and the name of the shop where you purchased your book, and we'll call you back the next working day. Get all your NCBI bingo information at highlandradio.com.
Start playing NCBI Radio Bingo today. 3 chances a day, 5 days a week to win daily prizes of €400 plus. Not to mention a weekly jackpot of €5,000 upwards. Books available at your local retailer for just €5 each. It couldn't be simpler. Real money, real people.
When you get enough people together, you can achieve almost anything. Send someone like me into space, or create change on the ground. People power, strength in numbers, whatever you want to call it, it works.
Together with over 1 million homes and businesses already with Electric Ireland, we're making changes for a brighter energy future. Be part of the change at electricireland.ie.
The Kerrykeel Vintage Rally is back this Saturday, the 11th of June. Enjoy a great display of stationary engines, cars and tractors. There's also trade stalls, crafts and demonstrations, live music and children's amusements. That's the Kerrykeel Vintage Rally at the church grounds this Saturday from 12 noon. Proceeds in aid of church funds and local charities.
Cannon Furniture in Milford now stock and supply a full range of mobility aids. Everything from mobility scooters and electric wheelchairs to walking mobility aids and lift and rise chairs, with delivery across the northwest and a full backup service. Visit the open days this Friday the 10th and Saturday the 11th and see the great choice available. That's all at Cannon Furniture Milford, just 500 metres from Lidl on the Kerry Keel Road. See Facebook or call 91 535 79.
Donegal County Council, in association with Bryson Recycling, are holding a half-price bulky goods event at Letterkenny, Lahey and Dunlow Recycling Centres from the 7th of June to the 18th of June, during site opening times. For more information and opening times, visit donegalcoco.ie or call the council on 074 9153 900.
It's the Inishowen Vintage Show, Friday 10th of June at Carrickfield, Moville. There's Matthew Cramsey followed by Barry Kerwin's Matrimony Band. Doors open at 8 p.m. with a late bar. This ad is sponsored by Hannon Green. For all your insurance needs, we have you covered.
Right, changes in areas of the brain associated with emotion have been identified in people with broken heart syndrome. Scientists at the University of Aberdeen discovered changes in the level of brain activity in areas known to control the beating of the heart. Takotsubo syndrome is a sudden form of acute heart failure and is usually brought on by emotional distress, but scientists do not fully understand the condition. Dr. Hilal Khan is Clinical Research Fellow at the University of Aberdeen. He joins us on the programme now. A very good morning to you, Doctor, and thanks so much for joining us.
Hi there, Greg. Thanks for having me today. I'm struggling to hear you, actually. I'm not getting good volume.
Okay, can you hear me a little bit better now?
Yeah, you're very faint, but I can just about hear you. Yeah.
Okay, I'll try and speak as clearly as possible. So, talk to me about what you thought the most interesting and key findings of this investigation.
Yeah, so this study was a study that we did in the Aberdeen Royal Infirmary, to try and look at the sort of brain-heart connection that might exist in patients with Takotsubo cardiomyopathy, because Takotsubo cardiomyopathy is a condition that affects about 5,000 people in the UK alone every year. And those patients who do suffer from it, have similar sort of poor outcomes that patients who've had a bona fide heart attack where they have a blocked coronary artery. And we felt that it was important to understand better this condition, because once you understand the condition, how it occurs, you can then target treatment and prevention measures to try and reduce, improve outcomes for patients. And so this is the reason why we did this study. And what we showed was that patients who had, an episode of broken heart syndrome, they were more likely to have abnormalities in key areas of the brain that are responsible for regulating essentially the fight and flight response in people in response to strong emotions. These abnormalities, for example, the areas of the brain that were particularly responsible are known from previous research to, if those areas are, not working properly. For example, in a stroke patient who's had a stroke to that area, they're more likely to develop injury to the heart, or, elevations in blood enzymes that suggest some injury to the heart. And so, for the first time, we've demonstrated, I think, a sort of a connection between these two areas. And I think hopefully, taking research forward, we'd hope to try and expand on this and sort of, be able to produce some sort of meaningful results for patients that can translate into improvements in their, outcomes and quality of life as well.
Is this in the same space as, the emotions that might trigger palpitations or an elevated heart rate if you're anxious?
So actually that's a good question. So because there's a lot of misunderstanding about broken heart syndrome. There's sometimes the conception that it's just a little bit of anxiety or stress that seems to set it off, and it's kind of the person just a bit of a stressful person. But I mean the triggers tend to be a lot more severe in general. So it tends to be a third of patients who do have an emotional trigger, they tend to present usually after a bereavement, so the sudden loss of a family member, or even of a very dear pet. Something that really makes someone quite, sad and, feeling a loss. Although it can also be triggered by, extremes of emotions. So particularly if someone was very happy, it could happen as well, extremely happy. But generally speaking, it tends to be in response to bereavement. And it's not that patients who get this condition are, are always thinking they have, something wrong with them. They're actually quite, just normal folk who just, are going around about their life, and suddenly something hits them, and then they just, whatever that link is that that we were talking about.
Yeah. So in relation to that, then, so for obviously lots of us go through extreme emotional stress, but not all of us get this syndrome. Okay. So is it that some of us are our emotions are stronger, or do the strong emotions that we might all experience trigger a fault in the brain or heart?
Yeah, that's also a very, very good question, because it's obviously a slightly different question to answer, because not everyone gets it. So it only affects, the 2% of all women who present to the hospital with a suspected heart attack end up having a broken heart syndrome rather than one of these. The reason it occurs, like I said, is it's a little bit unclear to us, because we still need to do more work, and this is one of the reasons why we're trying to get raise awareness, because it's not well understood. We suspect that either it's something. I mean, because obviously until now people thought that maybe it was that patients who get Takotsubo syndrome might have a heart that's vulnerable to stress, to stressors. So it might be that when they get a surge of adrenaline from the nerve endings and the heart, the heart doesn't quite like it as well as maybe someone else. So maybe there's a small subset of patients with potentially, we don't know, but we are currently doing work in genetic studies in Takotsubo cardiomyopathy, whether or not certain genetic markers could be associated with it, and it could be that people might have a slightly different gene for a particular stress heart, kind of a adaptability marker in the heart that just doesn't allow them to adapt well to stress. It could also well be that the brains of patients with Takotsubo cardiomyopathy might have. So most of our brains can sort of develop over time, and they can, if you develop a stroke, you lose function over time. Sometimes you can regain that through rehab and developing new brain pathways. It could well be that patients with Takotsubo cardiomyopathy develop a sort of a brain, sort of, maybe a maladaptive, rewiring of the brain over the years, and that might be what's leading to this as well.
And in those that you analysed, okay, do they have to show their heartbrokenness? Do they have to show it externally? In other words, can someone be heartbroken, but but deal with it internally, and put on the brave face or what have you? Is there any difference between those that feel that they just can't cope with this loss versus those that think they're able to cope with it? Internally they're devastated, externally they seem fine.
Yeah, obviously it's very hard to generally, I suppose, give a clear answer to that. But most patients, in my experience, who present with it, they seem to be managing very well. There's no sort of open, it's not like these people are distraught. Like I said, they're very, very normal folks who just, they're quite shocked, that suddenly, they were dealing with one sort of issue, and suddenly they themselves are suddenly in hospital, and they're just trying to. And most of them are, I have to be honest, most of them are very, very good. Even despite all of their what's going on, they're very keen to take part, and they tend to be very supportive of us, helping us to sort of find answers for them in the long run. But if there was a sort of person, I think, who was very distraught, we wouldn't get such high for such an uncommon condition, we're able to recruit the patients we need.
Yeah. Have you learned enough that if you were a GP now and one of your regulars was coming in and they suffered maybe they were predeceased or lost a long-term partner or even a pet, and would you be at the point where you go, well, maybe we just keep an eye on maybe an ECG now and again, or I don't know how you might discover these kind of issues. Like, are you convinced enough now that you might give certain patients a bit of extra attention in this regard?
So I mean, obviously, I do research in it, so I would definitely give it extra attention.
You're just looking for recruits, you know what I mean, though.
But yeah. So essentially, so I think it's important to understand how these patients present as well, so to get an idea. So essentially, these patients will present with the symptoms of a standard heart attack. So and sometimes it looks like they're having a massive heart attack, and some of these patients will go straight to the to the angiogram lab and have a procedure done with the view of putting in a stent, because everyone thinks this lady usually has a blocked artery, and then we go down to open and to look in the artery. There's completely, in most cases, they're just completely normal. There's not even a bit of plaque there you can see sometimes, and essentially that's how they present. And then because there's been, and then their heart essentially gets it thickens and fills up, gets sort of ballooned out, usually because it fills with water that we think is due to inflammation. and then the heart also drops its function. So normally the heart is working, and most people above 55%, sort of, function wise, we say, and then in these patients it can drop down to kind of in the 30s or 40%. It's quite low. Sometimes the drop in function is even more severe than you do get with an actual heart attack. So it's a genuine, objectifiable condition with real quantifiable changes in the heart. And even long term, what they do is these patients will tend to recover in 3 months' time. So what we tend to do is bring them back in 3 months and repeat scans and so on to see that they're, that everything is essentially that everything is okay. In terms of long-term follow-up, again, these patients do have the similar sort of long-term pattern as patients had a heart attack. Unfortunately, they don't have the treatments of a patient who has a heart attack. We don't have any really proven good treatments that would be effective at sort of improving the outcome of these patients long term. But I think it's obviously important to keep an eye on them. But in terms of screening and follow up, unless they had more symptoms, I mean, I wouldn't. Let's say if someone's complaining of some chest pain, I'd definitely make sure you do an ECG or a tracing of the heart. Or,
and just two more brief questions. Do we know? I mean, I presume we're talking specifically about broken heart, so our focus is on that organ.
Yeah.
Do we know if the same triggers or the signals from the brain affect any other organs or their function?
So there is definitely work on other organs. For example, there's work on sort of a brain gut axis, so the bowel. So the brain is definitely, I think for a long time people thought the brain was just about making you have higher function, less in cognition and so on, and people weren't quite aware of the they were very close to what we call autonomics or regulations or central nervous system.
It's like the engine room, isn't it?
Well, we think we being a cardiology doctor myself, I consider the heart the engine room. but obviously,
shout out for the hearts out there. No offense to the brains.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's definitely more about a central processing unit.
Okay.
Inputting stuff, and it regulates everything between nerves, causing can cause even increase in heart rates. And that's why when you get anxious, whenever your heart rate shoots up, or down, and it can release sort of hormones from the ends of nerves and so on. It has a variety of effects.
I think anyone who suffers with anxiety or white coat syndrome or it's astonishing the relationship between the brain and the heart and all other elements of the body. It's the brain. I know you're a heart man, but the brain is what it can actually do is. It's wonderful and it's scary all at the same time. Well, my very final question for you. So there are people, and I think lots of us will feel that someone close to us or someone we know genuinely died of a broken heart, and people can be quite cynical about that and go, yeah, right, well, I'm sure. It is a thing. It can actually, it is a thing, and I think that's been proven. But now we need to just do more analysis of it, and you're going to come in from a very clinical approach, but it does happen.
Yeah, 100%. It definitely happens. And that's something that people need to be aware of. It definitely does happen. And it's not something to dismiss, obviously. It's always hard to know unless, for me to make a call about anything until you have the clinical information. But definitely, we've had patients who haven't, survived with broken heart syndrome, So it's something that, and sometimes it happens very quickly. It's quite clear to me how it could cause someone, to pass away. So unfortunately, and that's why we need to do, more research, increase awareness, so people are more aware of it. It's not one of these things that gets dismissed.
All right. Thank you very much for your time, Doctor. I really appreciate you working through the sound issues with us as well. That's Dr. Hilal Khan. He's Clinical Research Fellow at the University of Aberdeen. What do you think about that? I think it's confirmed what a lot of people feel they already knew. I'm a disabled man awaiting replacement appointment at Kingsbridge, Belfast. Waiting 6 years. Have to go to the Mater Private Dublin 3 days earlier. Been waiting on results from Letterkenny since early 2019. Sounds good going private. My worry is how will I afford the petrol to make them trips? It's a nightmare, and we are getting into that space now. From Facebook, listening to people talking every morning on the 9 till noon show about the services available in the 26 counties. Greg, would you want to become part of it? You were living in the 6 counties. Transport service is awful. Hospitals are in a mess and staff are leaving for a better life to other parts of the world. Look at the mica problem and how that's been handled. Young people, once educated, have to emigrate to earn a living. The country is in a real mess because the government is a joke. They don't care for the ordinary man. A couple more before a break on our next guest. I totally agree with Paddy. Top management get the blame for so much, yet they are only caretakers and all decisions take place in Galway. Well, you see, you have to understand that we, and when I say we, I don't mean me or Highland, I'm on about us as a population, work with the information we have, don't we? Someone could come out like Paddy did there and explain. I thought it was quite interesting to hear from Peter and Paddy. Not everyone will be convinced with what they have to say. They would say, well, you were part of the setup. You would say that, wouldn't you? I get that. Some people are going to feel that way. But, you know, to give us an insight into who makes the decisions, how those decisions are made, I've got to the point now, any issue we're talking about, let's get to the root cause of the problem and work our way from there. So I think... it's just interesting to get that information. Maybe more people could speak out, but they're hamstrung in doing so within that organisation. Greg, as the old saying goes, too many chiefs. Another, would Peter O'Rourke put his name forward in the general election and fight for the hospital? I don't know. I think there's a space going at the moment. I'm not sure what Peter or indeed maybe Paddy's political affiliations are, if any. But I would say there might be a few parties interested in perhaps, if not Peter, Paddy Rooney could have a go at it. He seems to be politically, it doesn't seem to be, we know he is politically astute. He's got an inside track on quite a lot of things. And as I say, there's vacancies there. Could Paddy Rooney be a future general election candidate? I don't know. I've heard nothing I've heard nothing in that regard, by the way. It was just as that listener said, Mr. O'Rourke, well, what about Deputy Paddy Rooney? Could that be a thing? As I say, I don't know what his, if any, political affiliation he might have. I've been trying to renew my licence. I can't seem to get through to the office over the phone to get it sorted. I've tried to call every day for the last few days. Has anyone else had any luck? Let us know. 086 60 25,000. Well, we already got an answer for you, but you can add to this. Appointments can be made via the website for licence renewal. It's a step-by-step process and it will take your details there. So get on the website. But what if you don't have access to the web? You know, what if you want to ring up and speak to a human? Heavens forbid, you might want to do that. A camper van has put a big bag of rubbish into my bin. My bin is being charged by weight. It's the first time it's happened. People usually do stop in the area to take pictures, but this is too much. It's just too much. It's cheeky, isn't it? I would agree. The Marlin Park Hospital in Galway has just reopened after having to have its roof replaced. It's got a new orthopaedic services there. This will be all ortho cases sent to Galway. That's what that one person believes. Here's another case of the decision makers either forgetting or more likely not caring about how far Donegal is from civilization. Yeah, indeed. Another, the government tell us no money for hospitals, no money for schools, no money for pay rises. So where's the money coming from to fund the war? I don't think we're funding the war, but I take your point. Last week I was in Galway for an 11 a.m. appointment. I left Donegal early to get there. When I arrived, I was told my appointment was cancelled. A very nice receptionist said, I appreciate you've come a long way. Let me see what I can do. I got to see the doctor, who told me there were only 2 doctors seeing 62 patients that day. The next day when I got home, the cancellation letter came in the post. Right, okay, so there's a couple of things going on there. Obviously, the cancellation, why not send text or call? Secondly, fair play to that receptionist for pulling through a few strings, but you managed to make the system, what seems to be a broken system, work there. Well, every day there are complaints about the hospital. If any other business is going that bad and in that amount of difficulty, etc., then you look to the top table for their heads. Another, end privatisation. It's ruining our health service. Put all our public money into our public hospitals. Stop starving our public hospitals to feed the privateers, and so on and so on. Dozens and dozens and dozens more comments. Keep them coming into us. We really appreciate it. Okay, we're going to be back with our next guest in just over 2 minutes.
The strawberries and cream frappe and Belgian milk chocolate frappe have arrived at McDonald's. Enjoy the taste of summer with the McCafe iced range. Strawberries and cream until the 26th of July. Contains strawberry flavouring only. Belgian milk chocolate until the 6th of September. Not available on delivery. Participating restaurants only. Subject to availability.
Join Derek Ryan in the Abbey Hotel, Donegal this Friday, 10th of June for a night of dancing with special guest Johnny Brady and his band. Pay at the door. That's Derek Ryan in the Abbey Hotel, Donegal this Friday, 10th of June.
On this week's Business Matters, I'll be talking to hearing aid audiologist and owner of Donegal Hearing Clinic, Sabrina Robb. I'll also be speaking to Donegal ETB's Further Education and Training Services Course Recruitment Officer, Tara Maguire, about the latest course offerings. So join me, Kieran O'Donnell, for Business Matters on Sunday evening, after the 6 o'clock news. The Business Matters podcast is also available to download at highlandradio.com.
Business Matters, in association with the Faculty of Business at ATU Donegal. The part-time Level 8 Honours degree in Business is delivered through a mix of online and face-to-face lectures. Email execedbusiness@lyit.ie. That's EXECED business@lyit.ie or call 9186206.
Treat your garden to a makeover at GMG Stone Letterkenny. We offer great value on decorative stone, garden paving, slabs and artificial grass, all tailored to your needs with home delivery available. We also supply railway sleepers, whiskey barrels and place sand, all available for pickup or delivery. Open Monday to Saturday from 9:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. You will find us beside Donaghy Motorhomes on the Port Road. For an appointment, call 087 647 9121. GMG Stone, just what your garden needs.
The Inishowen Vintage Club will host the IVS All-Ireland Rally, a family fun day not to be missed, with hundreds of vintage cars and tractors on display. There's lawnmower racing, a fun fair, children's sports day, fashion show, trade stands and lots more. At Carrickfield Moville, Sunday 12th of June, the biggest show in town.
Northwest Regional College has launched its exciting range of part-time courses starting this September, and enrolments are now open. Whether it's a new skill or a new career direction, there's something on offer for everyone. For course details at our Derry, Londonderry, Limavady or Strabane campuses, visit nwrc.ac.uk/part-time. And remember, enrolments are now open. Refresh your future with a part-time course at Northwest Regional College.
Okay, you're very welcome back to the 9 till noon show here on Highland Radio. We welcome onto the programme Councillor Niamh Kennedy. Councillor Kennedy, apologies for holding you there. I just to be honest with you, I didn't realise you were there for a couple of minutes, so thanks for your time.
No problem at all, Greg. How are you and everybody?
I'm good. We are all doing okay. Right, okay. You are expressing shock and anger that not more is being done with our vacant and derelict buildings in towns and villages to address the current accommodation crisis impacting this county. And, you know, I take on board what you're saying, because we've been talking about this forever. New initiatives, new schemes, websites where you can report this, that and that, and nothing ever seems to come of it.
Absolutely. And it's just becoming a crisis point. I think we've realised it's been a crisis for quite a while with the housing issue. And now to realise the amount of people who are looking for homes that can't get them, younger people, young families, people with mica crisis, people that are just genuinely looking to get to work, that they can't get accommodation near where their work is. It's gone crazy, and we need to do something and tackle it. Where we're passing by empty buildings on streets and town centres and in villages all over the county.
Do we have the tools to address this, though, Niamh? I mean, are the tools there and we're not using them? Because, you know, I think the process of actually taking over these buildings is so complex that maybe that's one of the reasons we don't go near it.
It absolutely is. And in fairness, a lot of people who've maybe got older, they've closed the shops down, they're not living on the streets anymore. And these buildings get deteriorated to an extent whereby it's going to cost them far too much money to do them up again. So there needs to be initiatives and incentives for people to get them done, and for the local authorities to take this on, to tackle it head on, because I know and we all know there is a massive crisis, and by this winter it's going to get an awful lot worse. I think as local representatives, we're getting calls daily, multiple calls from people who just don't have housing anymore, or they're getting letters from their landlords to say that they're selling their houses because the cost of the houses has gone through the roof and they want to get out now and get their money and run. And the cost of rental has gone through the roof as well, which we've seen even rurally, like $800-900 a month, for a small 2-bed apartment. It's just unsustainable the way things are going. So we do need to tackle it. There are a couple of things that we do need to do. We need to utilise that repair and leasing scheme and get it up and running properly. I know that the local authorities now have been given, they're allowed now to hire full-time team of vacant and derelict officers throughout the counties. So that's something that's coming from the Housing for All initiative as well. So hopefully, we'll get that up and running soon. We had a workshop there just during the week there this week, and we had this discussion. It started out on the county development plan and it took over by the housing and the lack of, really and truly. It's obviously number one priority in the county, and we need to address it really head on.
And no disrespect for you, to you, sorry, and I appreciate you making the calls, but I've done this so often now at this point, Niamh, I just don't really see us ever doing this for a myriad of reasons, most of which I probably don't know.
Well, there's buy and renew schemes, I know, and then there's long-term leasing initiatives and all of that. You know, it really does. We need this team together. We really do, and we're calling for a team in each MD in the county, because each councillor and each community knows, you know, who owns what's vacant, what needs to be done, and, you know, get help and assistance for this, not have red tape thrown in our way. We know we can do this. We genuinely can. But I think there needs to be a will and a drive and a good old push, because if there's money there for housing, we need to get at it. We need to get in there and get these houses reutilised again and revitalised. And repurposed for people to live in, because otherwise I can see us in mobile homes, you know.
Yeah, indeed. All right, listen, thanks, Niamh. I appreciate your time this morning. That's Councillor Niamh Kennedy, 08660 25000, the WhatsApp number.
Michael Murphy Sports and Leisure has everything you need for getting fit in 2022. From training gear to resistance bands, skipping ropes, weights and foam rollers, we have all the essentials to see you through every step of your fitness journey, from training to recovery. Shop our range of gym wear, equipment and accessories at michaelmurphysports.ie.
Prep for your best you this summer with Clarins at McElhenny's. Choose 3 deluxe size complimentary beauty treats with the purchase of 2 or more Clarins products, 1 to be a moisturiser or serum. Plus, take home 2 makeup must-haves with a 3rd purchase. Available at McElhenny's in-store or online until June 25th.
Welcome back to Checkout Line, where the new Lidl beef campaign is causing a bit of a stir. You were saying there, Cheese.
Well, Bread, Beef says he's got all these blasting here and awards. But we've all won awards, like. There's no need to go on about it.
Yeah. Strawberry.
He says he's quite fresh, like, but I'm a Lidl strawberry. Like, come on.
Turnip, what did you have to say?
Come down with a wonderful award over there, and I come down and then up again a bit of ball, and they're done again yet in the morning.
Yeah, you're joking me. He did what?
Everyone loves Lidl beef. Well, almost everyone. Lidl. More for you.
Cannon Furniture in Milford now stock and supply a full range of mobility aids. Everything from mobility scooters and electric wheelchairs to walking mobility aids and lift and rise chairs, with delivery across the northwest and a full backup service. Visit the open days this Friday the 10th and Saturday the 11th and see the great choice available. That's all at Cannon Furniture Milford, just 500 metres from Lidl on the Kerry-Keel Road. See Facebook or call 91 535 79.
All ready for next year? Why not make sure of it with SEAT? Trade up to a 221 SEAT SUV and you'll be offered PCP finance from 1.9% and a 3-year service plan for just $9.99 a month. With the bold new Arona, the stylish new Ateca, or the outstanding 7-seater Tarraco, we're all ready. Are you? Trade up to your 221 SEAT SUV at DMG Motors, Claw Road, Donegal Town. Finance provided by way of her purchase agreement from Volkswagen Financial Services Ireland, trading as SEAT Financial Services. Subject to lending criteria. Terms and conditions apply. Visit seat.ie/221 for further information.
It's the Inishowen Vintage Show Friday 10th of June at Carrickfield, Moville. There's Matthew Cramsey followed by Barry Kerwin's Matrimony Band. Doors open at 8 p.m. with a late bar. This ad is sponsored by Hannon Green. For all your insurance needs, we have you covered.
Okay, you're very welcome back to the 9 till noon show here on Highland Radio. We welcome into studio now our next guest, and that is Finley Thompson, a student at Ross's Community School. Finley, thank you very much for joining us. Good to have you in with us.
Thank you very much, Greg, for having me on. Good morning to all your listeners.
No, it's good, and I think it's an important topic you've been looking at. So talk to us about it. What were you examining? Public transport in rural Ireland, really?
Yeah, so down in the Shannon, I suppose we were down there last Friday. We're some of the first young people to be included in, I suppose, a proper talk. It was a sitting. It was a session with the...
Were you part of that?
Yeah, I was a part.
Did you feel heard at that, by the way? Sorry, before we start talking about that. Did you feel heard at it?
Definitely. I think that was one of our concerns, that we were maybe patronised, because there was a debate, and but they took our view seriously. They didn't patronise us. They listened to us. I suppose that was the main thing that we were hoping for, and we achieved that. But we're also hoping for more things to be included further, and not just us, but other young people, because we are in the minority in the government as young people. And I suppose we have some great views that we would love to share on that, and yeah.
All right, so you were speaking in the Shannon as part of a delegation from Freuga, which is a great organisation, and was the general tone of the conversation the climate crisis, and was your particular focus on, alternatives to cars and what have you? Talk to me about what point you wanted to get across.
So everyone had their own their issue, their topic. Some people talked about sustainability, some people talked about circular economy. My one was rural transport. Being a Donegal man, I thought that's my topic, that's the topic for me. I suppose my way I approached the speech was highlighting issues, but also trying to give alternatives to the issues. Like I talked a wee bit about hydrogen cars. I know the lack of rural transport in Donegal. I know I mentioned about Donegal is effectively in the Stone Age in terms of transport. I suppose those are problems I see as a young person, and I suppose even we're not experts in our topics. We haven't got college degrees in them, and we very openly admit that, and we're learning all the time. And it all kind of started with this group called The Collective, and that this young people, and that's why we've kind of filtered from there now to the Shannon. And I suppose we're talking about these topics and that, and we're learning all the time, but we're sharing our unique youth opinion on them and that.
All right, so what is our realistic expectations, Phil, in your opinion? I mean, I don't think we can expect to have a bus running past every house.
No.
In every area. So really, from our perspective, do we have to start thinking about, if you're, I don't know, what's Belcritch, what's the nearest big town to Belcritch, would you say?
Dunlow. So
Dunlow,
it's
right.
3 miles from
Dunlow.
Dunlow.
So, I mean, are we talking about really, realistically, proper links from Dunlow to Glenties, to Killybeg, to Ardra, a proper bus network that sort of meanders through there. And we have local link, actually. I hear an awful lot of good things about it, all right? But, what can our expectations actually be? So what brings us out of the Stone Age without us having to say, well, I can't expect to have a bus come to my door if I live, 6 miles up a country road from Killybegs?
Well, I think maybe the main thing about it is the pedestrianisation, being able to give people alternatives. You're right, you can't have a bus come past every door. Things like Local Link, absolutely love them. I use them all the time myself and that. But, I'm 3 miles from Dunlow, so it means I have to get from my house to Dunlow. And I was talking about to TD about this, and she said, this is one of the problems that the Local Links are facing. They're a great service, but getting people to the point of the destination and that is a great problem. So I think the pedestrianisation already, at the moment, we're from Letchermack Award to Glenties, and we're hoping kind of from Dunlow all the way to Glenties you will have a cycle path, and that would be an absolute great resource. It would encourage people, not just from the tourist point of view, but also, I suppose, from anybody being able to cycle. Looking at ulterior motives and that, because Donegal could be a great template for other counties. We are in the Stone Age at the moment, but we don't have to be stuck in the Stone Age. We can quite easily come out of there, and I suppose show people this is how it can be done, and show it to other counties.
And this is the just transition conversation, isn't it? In that there's a place that they want us to get to, but it can't be a huge disadvantage to us, and you have to actually give us realistic options to get there.
Yeah, exactly. No, 100%. I suppose we have, as Donegal, we're a very rural county, and especially 100 years ago, my grandfather, 91, 100 years, he had a better chance of catching a train than I do today. So we've kind of gone in the reverse in terms of our public transport. And that's one thing we pushed for, was maybe the possibility of trains in Donegal again, because we have a lot of the old routes still available and that. So I suppose we're just this development and trying to, push things along in that, and give people the options,
I think too, and a lot of people go, and I'm a perfect example. I could not use an electric bike to go to and from work. And you've given a perfect example there. I've got people in my own family that it's the same situation we're talking about a distance. I just think if electric bikes were more available, more affordable, and we had some, I think they'd almost be as important in Donegal as the electric car for these types of journeys that we're talking about, especially if they were a safe place to store them. Do you know what I mean? Like you see in park and ride or pick up, drop off points. I know we can't do that here, but people say, well, how can I cover that 5 kilometres or that 4 or 3 kilometres? And it's like, it's not safe to do so. Push bike, it's not for everyone. Walking, it can be difficult. I just think e-bikes, if they were properly subsidised, I would love to see what the level of take-up would be. I think there'd be tons of them in this county alone, but they're just too bloody expensive.
Well, exactly. I think money is our biggest problem in the county. With this issue.
But do you think there's something to that?
There's definitely something to that, and I talked about maybe the possibility of proper storage within Local Link bus stations, of storing bikes, because I know myself in my own school, nobody recycles to school and that, and in national schools and that. It's a dying, I suppose, thing where people cycle to it, and the encouragement of that, I suppose, where people, I suppose people try and cycle, as you say, e-bikes and that. And the big thing is the charging. And I talked about that with electric cars in rural settings. With electric cars, it's very hard to charge them. You know, there's very little.
Well, this big, like Ardara has no charger.
Exactly.
I mean,
exactly.
On the Wild Atlantic Way.
Yeah, exactly. So there are huge problems with them. So I suppose we're always looking for alternatives and trying to, trying to get to where we want to be, but maybe not the same route as every other county like Dublin.
I mean, when you see the targets that have been set and how far we are away from them, and the fact that we can't pretend that we're not 1/3 of the way almost through this decade and the ambitions for 2030. Do you believe we have the ability to get where we need to be?
I think we do. It'll definitely take a bit of work, and I'm very hopeful because talks like us going down to the Shannon, those are important steps, letting young people in there. As I say, a problem shared is a problem halved. You can't underestimate that. Where you're letting young people, and also not just young people but other people give their opinions on these problems. I think we can solve these problems, but it will take a bit of work.
How important, generally speaking, do you think the issue of climate is amongst people of your age group? I mean, we're in any cohort, you're always going to have very active people that will put themselves out there and care more about things than others might. But I just wonder, across the board, as much as you can determine, Finley, do you think a lot of young people see that we are in a climate crisis?
I don't think so. I suppose I will admit myself that, 2 years ago, before I joined groups like the Collective and Freuga, I wasn't very interested in climate. I wasn't very interested in the youth advocacy and that.
You'd be more worried about the immediate things in life.
Well, exactly.
You? Yeah.
You're worried about when's the next pulse going to be on. That's more than the climate. But when you start to peel back the problems, and this comes back to the climate education, educating young people, possibly including in curriculums in school. That's new leaving.
But people think that that's brainwashing. I mean, there are people who organise themselves actively to say, well, you're trying to brainwash our young people into a certain narrative. There is still that conversation there, that people still believe that this is just being driven by big business or whatever it might be, and that it's not a thing.
Yeah, well, I suppose, I don't know, I suppose at this stage I think we can't deny that it is a thing. There are serious, significant indicators that people, it's becoming very apparent. Excuse me.
No, right, go ahead. You take a drink of water. You need your fuel too.
Well, exactly. There are apparent indicators, I suppose, that that it's obvious that it's not it's not just a thing that is it real, is it not real. I think the amount of effort that's going into organising, trying to solve these problems, it's people can't deny that there's something happening. Whether they deny it's climate justice, whether something the world is changing, and I think it's going to force us to change how we live. We live in a very fast-paced way of life at the moment. I think we're going to have to slow down a bit, reevaluate what's important to us as humans, as a nation in Ireland, but also as the world.
Yeah, so what if they say, well, listen, we're a tiny little country. The impact we have, it's got no impact in the wider scale of things. And of course, they're going to mention China and look what's happening over there. Ironically, per head of population, China's actually doing better than us. There's just an awful lot of people in China. What do you say to an argument like that there? Is it, why should we make all the sacrifices, before the big countries do?
I would definitely say that by everyone doing a wee bit, it leads to a big action. It leads to a big result. If everyone is doing their own wee bit, then it'll add up. That those amounts add up. You can't underestimate that. If everyone takes the view, well, if I don't need to do anything, because if I don't do anything, then somebody else will do it for me. And then if everyone takes that opinion, then nothing gets done.
Well, that's kind of really, the turn of the question. Right, so what's next for you, Finley? And not you personally, but in sort of this, yes, we're up at, I presume you don't want this to be a one-shot deal. You're up at the Shannon. They were nodding and going, oh, it's great to hear young people, and it's great for us to be speaking to you and not at you, and all the usual stuff. So what has to happen next to make sure that this just wasn't a nice trip away to Dublin?
I would say definitely including us, bringing us back, and I suppose opening out the circle of the people you're including. Minority groups, people this affects, because young people are a minority group, because then it affects us in a particular way, it can affect other groups in a particular way. Bring, I suppose, just this constant consultation, keep pushing. Coir Lamar Daly, he's a very good, a very new generation, I feel, very open to new suggestions, new ideas. The fact that young people in the Shannon, that's a very new idea, and I suppose that's a scary thought to some politicians and that, but I suppose just, bringing us back, and I suppose being open, having an open conversation, letting young people speak. I suppose young people have so much to say. We need to give them the platform to openly participate in our government and express their opinions.
Does this extend to allowing 16, 17-year-olds to vote? Because maybe then all of a sudden their voices and their opinions takes on a new weight.
Well, exactly. One of my very good friends who also was part of Constellation Mayweir, she says, if you get 16-year-olds to vote, then all of a sudden you have politicians having come into schools to educate young people. It's not just you're trying to, get the older people to, I suppose, trying to tell them, we're doing this and this, why you should vote for us. You're going to have to include it in the education system. You're going to have to tell, why should I vote for you and that. And I suppose, yeah, there definitely is that argument that bringing down the voting age could be quite an important thing, and it very much changed the political landscape.
I think it might be a game changer.
Yeah.
Personally speaking.
It could very much change the whole way, and in terms of solving the problem, it could definitely, I suppose, help push things along, speed it up, because time is our biggest enemy at the moment. As you say, we're nearly 1/3 away through this decade, so I suppose we're trying to push things along as fast as possible, and that.
Very finally, you're also heading out to the Council of Europe. What's the purpose of that? Your carbon footprint's going crazy here, and you ain't talking about the climate. What the hell?
Well, exactly, but that's.
Are you offsetting it?
Well, that's the thing that we talked about when I flew down to Dublin. That I suppose we want other alternative motives, but going to the Council of Europe, was part of, I suppose, youth participation within the council and that, and they are very, very pro, and they're very good and very open with trying to bring young people into, I suppose, how European politics work and that. This is, I suppose, a bit more of a showing us the council in person, because all of it's obviously been over Zoom, at the moment. So I suppose and there's 3 of us go, myself, Orrin O'Brien and May Weir, and our 2 leaders, Sandra McIntyre, and we're going to meet with Senator Joe O'Reilly, who's been a great advocate for us and that, and a great, I suppose, somebody who's really pushed us on and tried to get us incorporated within the council and that.
Yeah, all right, listen, brilliant stuff. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much, Greg.
And well done. It's been good having you in. That's Finley Thompson, a student at Ross's Community School from Belcrit. We appreciate your time this morning. Okay, it's time for us to take a break. We will be right back.
What are you doing this June 11th?
Love to dance.
In a band? Like to act?
Love to draw. Want to get juggling?
Whether you want to run away with the circus or explore your hidden talents.
Come out and play this June 11th for Crinan and Oak, a national day of creativity for big and little kids.
Go to creativeireland.gov.ie to find out more. Crinan and Oak.
Supported by RTE.
Bus Éireann are recruiting professional bus drivers nationwide for seasonal work commencing April 2022. All you need is a full Category D licence, digital tacho and CPC. Route and fleet training will be provided. For further information and to apply online, go to busaireann.ie/jobs.
McDade's Bathroom, Plumbing and Tiles, serving the Northwest for over 40 years. Explore our showroom with more than 40 displays. Choose from an array of shower doors, shower trays, baths and bathroom accessories. Speak with an expert about tile selection and wall paneling. We also stock an array of plumbing, heating and stove spare parts, as well as a great selection of kitchen mixers and radiators at our trade counter. Our stove department is also available for you to choose a style that suits your needs and complements your home. McDade's Bathroom, Plumbing, Tiles, we're here for you.
The Saturday Stretch Week 6 is here. Every Saturday throughout June, visit Oakfield Park, Rafo from 12 noon until late. This week there's high-heeled Converse, live in the stretch tent, with later running trains, food specials in Buffer's Restaurant, craft beers and wines, and live music after 6 from different acts each week. It's a perfect family day out. Normal gate fees apply, no booking required. Season Pass and Gold Pass holders enter free. That's the Saturday Stretch at Oakfield Park.
Would you like to further your education without the need to attend on campus? Atlantic Technological University Sligo are now making education accessible through the Higher Education for All initiative. Study a full-time degree and attend live online classes in an inclusive learning environment. If you need to stay at home due to caring commitments, a disability or financial circumstances, then Higher Education for All at ATU Sligo can help you take the next step. Visit atu.ie/highereducationforall.
There's something for every kind of dad at Lidl this week. Whether it's our incredible electric hedge trimmer for only $69.99 or our fabulous cordless beard and hair trimmer at only $16.99, it'll be bang on for somebody. So whether he's really into gardening or just really into himself, we've got Father's Day covered. Lidl, more for you.
New rep scheme to open within weeks. For more in this week's Irish Farmers Journal, here's Paul Mooney.
New rep scheme will see farmers paid up to €10,000 for re-wetting and scrub control. We detail what the new actions will be and how your farm can gain priority entry. Hill farmers say they won't allow land sterilisation through designations. And in labour-saving tips, we look at portable water troughs.
This week's Irish Farmers Journal, with all you need to know on the new rep scheme. You cannot afford to miss it.
Tesco Clubcard has the power to lower prices on snacky favourites like Nestlé Cheerios Multigrain 540 gram and Curiously Cinnamon Churros 360 gram, now €2.14, plus Nestlé Nesquik 375 gram, now €1.99. And choose from any of the Pringles 165 gram range, now 3 for €5. It can't stop you going back for seconds though. Nothing's that powerful. Lower the cost of your shop with your Tesco Clubcard or app. The power to lower prices. Tesco. Every little helps. Product subject to availability. Excludes express stores.
Irish sun doesn't really count, right?
Look, we all deserve a bit of sun. Skin cancer is the most common cancer in Ireland, so whether you're at home or abroad, protect your skin by following these sun smart steps. Slip into long loose clothes, slop on the sunscreen, slap on a sun hat, seek shade. Yeah, even on the cloudy days. Oh, and slide on the sunglasses. I do have very funky sunglasses.
And I do love this hat.
Be Sun Smart from the HSE and Healthy Ireland.
I have great news for everyone who's looking for a good night's sleep. Restex Beds are looking forward to welcoming you to their brand new showroom at Mountaintop, Letterkenny. It's one of the biggest and best bed and mattress showrooms in the Northwest and has fantastic opening offers now in store. Restex is the most trusted name in beds and mattresses in the Northwest. Why don't you call in and get the bed of your dreams at Restex Beds, Mountaintop, Letterkenny.
On the 17th of June, we have the all-new Nissan Ariya in the showroom for one day only. Make sure to call in and see what you've been waiting for all these years. The ultimate electric car to enter the market, now taking orders at iMotors Letterkenny and Malin.
Good morning to you this Friday morning. It is the 9 till noon show. Coming up shortly, Michael and Fanula join us in studio. But it's 11 o'clock, so let's get a news update and say good morning now to Donald Kavanagh.
Thank you, Greg. Good morning. A former orthopaedic surgeon at Letterkenny University Hospital says the more that surgical services are contracted out to private hospitals, the more of a risk there is that the hospital will be downgraded. Peter O'Rourke says the more surgical services are scaled back, the more of a threat there is to the hospital's future. Speaking to Greg on the 9 till noon show today, Peter O'Rourke said he fears the situation may be very different in 25 to 30 years from now. The COVID-19 testing centre at the Cleary Centre in Donegal Town is to close. The centre opened on September 27, 2020. Since then, it's carried out over 33,000 swabs. It'll cease testing on this day week, June 17th. The HSE says as COVID moves from pandemic to endemic status, that means the community testing service nationally will reduce in a gradual and controlled manner. A former deputy manager of Letterkenny University Hospital believes the decision to remove the angiogram service from the hospital was taken too casually. Speaking today on the 9 till noon show, Paddy Rooney said he believes the decision to remove the service had already been made, but public outcry forced a U-turn. He said it was extraordinary that the decision to remove the angiogram service from Letterkenny was taken, it seems, without consideration of the overall impact. The mother of Danielle McLaughlin, who was killed in Goa 5 years ago, says she's hopeful of a quick conclusion of the trial of the man accused of her rape and murder. It follows a high-level meeting in India between Goa's Chief Minister and two high-level diplomats from Ireland and Britain. Danielle had been travelling on a British passport at the time. The Social Democrats are calling on government to introduce a mini-budget following the publication of CSO figures, which show inflation at a 38-year high. The party says the historic inflation rate, coupled with the announcement that interest rates are on the way up in the coming weeks, will compound the financial difficulties already faced by many families. Meanwhile, the St Vincent de Paul organisation is reporting a 20% increase in requests for help this year. The Society's Donegal president, Rosa Dlacken, says she expects the cost of living crisis to worsen in the autumn, and that will lead to more calls for help. And the last Cathaoirleach of the Glenties Municipal District says he will not support a new county development plan if it doesn't facilitate the building of houses with entrances out onto the N56. At present, planning for such developments is being refused on safety grounds, but independent Michael McClafferty says in many cases these applications are from people who already live alongside the N56 and have cars, so it doesn't necessarily mean an increase in traffic coming onto the main road. He says he and other members are seeking an urgent meeting with Transport Infrastructure Ireland. And we're back with news headlines again at 12 noon.
Thank you very much indeed, Donal. We'll be back with Michael and Fionnuala, at least Michael anyway, after these.
Our manager's trying to bring down a government.
We're going to change the world.
Smashing it to Disney Plus. Pistol, a brand new original drama.
Our singer is fully insane. Our bass player starts fights for laughs. This is punk.
Come see us play. We're awful.
Ladies and gentlemen, Sex Pistols.
From director Danny Boyle, Pistol, available to stream exclusively on Disney Plus. 18 plus subscription required. T's and C's apply.
Okay, you're very welcome back to the 9 till noon show here on Highland Radio. It is Friday again. So we are joined in studio now by Michael and Fionnuala. Before I say good morning to them, Philomene, who's a regular viewer of the programme, watches daily from Marlon Head. Apparently today, and it's coming from him, so a reliable source, he's marrying the love of his life, Audrey Doherty. So congratulations to you two. Have a wonderful day. Oren McLaughlin in Illy's Buncrana, 21 tomorrow. Happy birthday to you. This coming in from Granny and Grandad McLaughlin in Grantia Buncrana. Please play a request for our daughter, Ellis McGonigal, Moreau Dunfanaghy, who's getting married to Joe Duggan at Holy Cross Church Dunfanaghy. Wishing them both the very best from Mum and Dad. Thank you. Eilis, E-I-L-I-S. That's Eilis, is it? Or Ellis? Eilish. Okay.
That's what I did.
Okay. Can you play Bruno's Mars, I Marry You for Eilish McGonigal and Joe Duggan getting married today in Dunfanaghy? Love yous from your pages, Page Boys, Danny, Jack and Patrick. We're not just going to get to that today, but someone will play it for you later, and have a wonderful day. Please, all of you. Right, okay. Michael Leddy, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Great to have you with us.
Great to be here.
Fionnuala Rabbit, great to have you with us as well.
Thank you.
Right, okay. So, Top Gun. Both of you have been to see this.
Yes.
Top Gun, the sequel, Maverick.
Yes.
Okay, I watched in preparation of possibly going to see this, the original Top Gun, a couple of days ago.
You had seen it though when it came out.
I don't believe I had.
Dear God.
I don't believe I had.
God, how am I surrounded by Top Gun virgins?
I don't know. Well, listen, it was a long time ago. No. It was terrible. Have you just watched it recently?
I've never seen it. I would never watch it again.
Huh?
I loved it, so I would never watch it again.
Okay.
I'd be afraid it wouldn't.
What did you love about it?
My
The
memories
original. Now
of
we're
it
talking
are,
about Top Gun 1.
Yes. My memories of it are that it was very kind of romantic, as in you had the whole Kelly McGillis and himself and that kind of thing, and the singing and all that in the pub. Then it was very sad and tragic, and then it had everything, and it had, like, you know, at that time, what one was that? 1987 or 88 or something like that when it came out. They also had all these guys out playing volleyball with their shirts off, which for us young teenage girls
and they
was
did,
very exciting.
they did cool hand claps and stuff.
Oh yeah, it was all very kind of exciting and macho and that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And everybody was just really perfect and handsome in it, and it was just one of those kind of movies.
Yeah.
I told you, it was like the first time you ever saw like French kissing in the cinema. It was like unbelievable.
Playing a bit of Berlin in the background, and it starts about 50 times. They open in bars of it.
Yeah. Well,
but never gets as far as to the until well into it.
As does this movie. This movie starts with Berlin.
Okay, but they probably thought the Danger Zone song was the song of the film,
that's the one.
But maybe then the Berlin one became more synonymous with the film.
Well, it just kind of comes together, and it's actually the Danger Zone is what starts off, and then the Berlin one shows up later on in it. That's the way it works out in the thing.
It was very of its time, I think, the first Top Gun, but people are very, very defensive of it. Very defensive.
I found. He said, looking across the room.
I'm not sure whether to speak to you first, Michael. in the context of it just being a standalone,
Yes.
watching the film for the first time, or Fionnuala with the natural sort of what it does to her
Progression.
memory. So let's presume most people watch the first one,
Yes.
yeah? Okay, so we'll start with you, Fionnuala.
Well, I went into this now because I have not seen. I mean, possibly I've seen the first one a second time, maybe if it was on TV or something like that. But I don't have any memory of seeing it again, bar in the cinema, and really enjoying it, but never going back to it because there's an awful lot of those TV movies that you really love. Like I loved Dirty Dancing when it came out. Watched it again, kind of as an adult, and went, "Oh dear God!"
Yeah, that's what will happen with Top Gun.
Yeah, and I was
okay,
like,
so
no,
don't
I have
watch
to
it again.
avoid.
Yeah.
It actually nearly made me dislike Patrick Swayze, and I was like, no, Fionnuala, get away! You must love Patrick Swayze. So I deliberately would not go back to this. Now, I do have friends who've watched it regularly and think it holds up and think it's still as good as it was when they originally watched it. So I was considering watching it again, but I'm kind of glad that I didn't now.
The love story's so basic. It's like, you know,
I don't
he
know.
tries to pick her up, then she tries to pick him up. Then, you know, it's you can't have a relationship because I'm a teacher and you're a student, and then it happens, and he's drinking the whole way through on his motorbike. Like, let's talk about that for a second. Because he's constantly boozing and he's never off his motorbike.
America seems to be a thing sometimes on these movies that you just think, I don't know how they think the Irish people drink a lot, because they seem to drink and drive on all of these.
I know, but the place is
American
littered with
and
Budweiser
British
bottles as well. They must have paid a fortune because
Yeah,
everywhere
it's
you look, there's
riddled.
bottles of Budweiser.
Yeah. But I have to say, I really enjoyed it. I went to see it. I went to this one, and I think I might be too old. Because, as you just said there, one of the things that kept sticking into my mind was, really, motorbike safety. No helmet. That lad's going to get himself killed.
Is this in the new one as well?
In the new one.
Oh,
Yes.
that's
No
very
helmet.
irresponsible.
That lad's going to get himself killed. And I have to say, when that kept popping into my head every time he was going around on his cool Kawasaki, I was like, going, you may be too old for this movie.
Yeah. I was chatting to a couple of women that watched it, and they said everyone in it is gorgeous.
Yes.
Oh God, yeah.
Yes.
I
They're
mean,
all-
well,
yeah.
bar,
They're all supermodels.
bar,
Supermodel pilots.
yeah, bar.
Iceman.
Iceman doesn't look great, but I know he hasn't been well and whatever. And Tom Cruise looks old in it. Even they've even kind of aged.
So another
up.
thing too about the original, right? So, you know, he's been training and he's a Top Gun, and no, he's not a Top Gun. He's an amazing pilot. I can't believe I'm trying to find plot holes in the first Top Gun.
Top Gun.
But you know, then
I'll give you loads.
he
of
has
plot holes.
one actual interaction where he actually fights in an aeroplane, and then goes, "That's it for me now. I'm going to be a trainer now. I've done enough."
Because, well, you see, because then you're not getting the subtext and everything that's
he wants to
going on.
be with Kelly.
Ooh, subtext.
No, it's not even that. It's that American fighter pilots have not engaged in air combat since the war.
Right, Second World War.
I almost going back that far. Probably
Vietnam?
not the second. Yeah, it would have been like Korea or Vietnam or something like that. Was the last time anybody shot down.
So they're not
something.
going to sea. They're going to be there, but they're going to just chase off the odd enemy that flies into their space.
So they don't really have, and like this is even mentioned in the beginning of Top Gun,
Right, there's an
in
awareness
Top
of
Gun
it,
2.
okay.
Yeah.
There's awareness there, like that. It's been a long time since pilots have actually engaged in that sort of
Another
way.
thing-
What they're really doing is just flying over and bombing things from a
Another
height.
thing, and I'm interested to see if things have progressed in the first film. The only role of the pilot behind is to, where? You know,
That's the
swing
same.
his head around.
It's the same.
Is it?
Yeah.
Like, so they're just there
It's a
to
big part of the
distract you by
story.
going,
Well,
what's that over there? Is that
there's-
something? What?
He's catching up
They
on
don't
us.
do anything
He's
else.
catching up on
They
us.
do nothing else but sit in the back panicking.
In the event of bombing, what they're actually there for is accuracy in bombing. That's what they're
Well,
supposed
all
to be.
they do in the first one is...
I 100%
Yeah,
agree.
of course, yeah.
Behind you, where is it? I don't know where
I
it is. Is it
100%
there?
agree.
Like,
I
why do you
100%
have to look at these things? I thought they had like radar and stuff. But you
Well,
have to have some...
that-
Well, now, in
The
fairness, if
idea
you were
is
up there and you could look out the window, you would. You'd be like, I can see the bad guy.
About to shoot me. But plus that the plane that they're in, it's like the F-18 or the F-19 or something like that it's called, and it's not like the most advanced of
this
all
is
the
like
planes.
this feels like a verbal version of one of those, you know, articles, fact check articles,
Yes.
where I'm like the person that's got all these crazy theories, and then Fionnuala's going, no, sorry. There's a logical explanation to all
the
of
thing
this.
about this is you do come out of this thinking, like with, completely disturbing, because obviously not true, feeling that I know a bit about these planes.
You do, okay, so I can
totally give
can
this,
I conclude,
I can totally
right,
give this a go.
that the first one is of its time and it is a classic, and people that watched it at that time, the guys were coming away doing the high fives and the low fives and walking around in jeans with the top off, and the girls were sort of saying things like, they take me to bed and leave me forever, not actually meaning it, but a lot of the sort of things that are said, I realised actually, they became
Pop culture. Oh yeah,
pop culture.
They definitely did. Yeah. And
totally.
The cast that you had in it, like you had Anthony Edwards in it, you had Meg Ryan, you had Kelly McGillis, you had Tom Cruise in it. Like, when it came out at this time, it was everything that we thought America was.
All right, okay.
You know what I mean? It had your good weather, it had all these gorgeous looking people. Everything was, superior kind of in their minds anyways at that time, like, army, superior, everything. This one, I suppose, is a little bit different in it. One of the things I noticed in it was what we were talking about last week. The enemy is unknown.
Yeah, well, it's the same in the first one.
It's unnamed.
Yeah.
Completely unnamed enemy in it. There's a lot of, you could literally go through it and pick out, if you watch the two films together at the same time, you could pause it at the exact same scenes. Because there were so many scenes in this that were exactly the same all the way through it. That had been copied all the way through it. There's like one hotshot guy who thinks he's better than everyone else, and then the next guy coming along. So it's very similar kind of a story, which is possibly why people love it. It's gone so well. I would have preferred if they didn't do another one, but it's done so well.
So what are you giving it out of 10?
I'm kind of torn about it because I did get caught up in the motorbike safety thing, and I was like, why am I getting caught up in this? You know what I mean?
That's a sign that it's not working.
It's just
fully
not
for
grabbing
you.
it for me.
Yes. Right then, Michael. So you're coming at this then. So you never watched the original.
Never
you're
watched
going
the
in
original.
seeing, right? You're seeing an action film in the sky.
Yeah, exactly. And I picked up on a lot of the pop culture elements of the first one, so I could recognise the elements of Top Gun that I imagined were in the first one. This is a good standalone movie. It's a good summer action movie. It feels like a 1980s movie because it has the sort of tropes that Faluna says were in Top Gun. They were in a lot of those movies that I would have seen through the 80s and into the 90s. Any movie that brought a ragtag bunch of guys together to pull off some sort of mission, and there's the hot shot and there's the geeky guy and there's the tough woman, all that kind of stuff. You see that in this movie. Works very well as a standalone movie. About 2/3 of it is the training, 1/3 of it is the mission.
Yep, this is very familiar.
Very familiar. There's a just about their love story that is there but doesn't really affect the story. It's just enough to give us something to look at that's not plot driven. The characters are very likeable. They're all stunningly good looking, as we've said. These are like all out of model school into pilot school. I thought it worked really well. I really liked it. I think it is what it is. There's no point trying to analyse the performances too much because it's Top Gun 2. You can't really analyse the characterisation too much either. You just have to go with it.
Tom Cruise good in it?
Tom Cruise is good in it, but he's just Tom Cruise. He does what he does.
In this one, there's a lot of looking back on the previous one.
Yes.
In his mind, and anybody who's seen the first, I don't want to ruin it if anybody who's going to watch the first, but anyone who's seen the first one knows what I'm talking about. There's a lot of, and this movie does explain why he's looking back, so it's not like as if you're kind of left thinking, flip, I should have watched the first one first. It does kind of let you in on what happened in it, but there's a lot of looking back in it, and Tom's not great at the old emotion.
Yeah,
he's an awesome runner.
Yeah,
he did a couple of great
he'll
runs.
jump out of the airplane without a parachute on in
oh my
real
God.
life.
And in this, you can see that the majority of the flying, he's all the close-ups. And that's because he's probably the only one. He can actually fly those things. Because after he did the first movie, he went and he learned how to fly these jets.
Now,
whatever they're called.
he said he wouldn't come back to it unless, or he was waiting to come back to it until they could shoot the aerial scenes in an innovative, sort of progressive kind of a way. Are they impressive?
They're very impressive. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Kaczynski is the guy. He's the director of this. He's only done like 5 or 6 movies. He was the guy who did Tron Legacy a few years ago, and he has pioneered. He did a short movie The name escapes me, but a few years ago, to pioneer a certain type of camera work and stuff. So yes is the short answer to your question. It looks amazing on screen.
And Fionnuala,
oh yeah, when missiles are flying over their heads at one point, and you could nearly feel it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's definitely, there's a lot of the more aerial stuff in it. You can definitely feel them in it.
The film is probably at its best when they're in the air. Because that's where
it's
you
a
get
huge amount of it. It's even more. The story is actually quite thin.
Very.
And that's the thing. You know what I mean? It's really
but
more.
The first story is it's as thin as one sheet of toilet paper.
I know, but
absolutely.
But at that time it hadn't been done. You know, nobody had done this type of a thing, so that's why it didn't really matter.
Yeah.
Whereas having seen the last one, I just found the story. But maybe it's setting it up. If it does come back again, the new group of Top Gun pilots are really good in it.
Yeah.
And I think the casting's really good for them. The only one that I thought was miscast was kind of John Hamm.
Yeah.
I don't know why
I felt that he was too likeable for being a bad guy. He didn't pull it off for me either.
For some reason, it was weird.
Okay.
I have not spoken to anyone, by the way, just because we're kind of getting into it and comparing it to the first and teasing it and have a bit more of a convo. I've not spoken to anybody who, whether they've seen the first one or not the second one, that didn't think it was an amazing cinematic experience.
Me too, and I have to say maybe that's what built it up a little bit too much for me. That the similarities kind of pulled it down in the sense, and Michael.
But there's precedent for that. When the new Star Wars trilogy came out, the first of those, which I thoroughly enjoyed, was a lot like the original Star Wars. You know, it really had the same story beats along the way. Now, obviously, with 2 and 3, the new ones, they did their own thing, and there's a lot of controversy about that. But the first one was just Star Wars remade. And that's not a bad thing. This is clearly Top Gun remade. And I think we do a disservice to Top Gun Maverick by analysing it. It's almost like you should
but that's
just
the
go
fun of it.
Oh, it is. I know, it's the fun of it.
But you see, they have. I understand because they have to. There's a word for it. There's a sequel, and then there's but it's not a remake. I can't remember what the word is.
It's not reboot you're looking for, is it?
No, it's not reboot, and it's not a sequel, but it's like there's a word for it. It'll come to me anyway.
Reimagining?
Maybe. Yeah. So they had to obviously. They went to a classic, right? Clearly a classic for people. We all ended up. I never watched it, but we all probably ended up playing, Afterburner and Ace Pilot and all this stuff after that because we wanted to sort of emulate that on whatever consoles we had at the time. So they had to sort of match the expectations, whatever they might be, for people who loved the original. But this also had to work as a standalone for those who'd never seen it before. Yeah. And I wouldn't like to take that on, but it seems they've actually pulled that one off.
They have.
It's getting
and with that in mind, a caller says, when I went to see Top Gun Maverick, I thought it was fantastic. The young people in the theatre applauded it at the end. I highly recommended for people to go and see it. Another went to see Top Gun Maverick last night, was not disappointed, not comparing it to the original as that was a classic. Another morning I felt the first original one was good too, but a bit sloppy. Yeah, lol. But this they actually wrote lol, by the way, I'm not saying that. But this second one is so much better. Really loved it. Can't wait now to see Jurassic film. Loved listening to you all, Lorna. Now Lorna, a lot of people aren't happy with the new Jurassic film. They actually think, and this is apparently to be the end of it.
Yes. Yeah.
They're feeling that this is dragging the entire franchise down. But we haven't seen that, but we'll talk about that, I'm sure. Hi, Greg. Watching the show via YouTube, and it would be great if all shows were broadcast live on YouTube. Well, listen. You can also watch directly on our website, highlandradio.com, and more and more programming will be available there directly on our website, so stay tuned for that. Good to have you on board nonetheless. Right, okay. So we are sounding like, me and you, particularly Fionnuala, I think, spoil sports. We're not. We're just trying to have a bit of crack with the story.
I enjoyed it as a movie. It definitely needs the big screen. It's definitely a spectacle. It's only when, as Mike said, probably shouldn't analyse it as in just go in and just sort of let it wash over you. You know what I mean?
Most people won't. I think most people won't.
Yeah, and I think that's what it is. It's only when you start to analyse it that, like I said, little things sort of come up, and it definitely. I remember leaving the first one and just like being awed by it.
Can I tell you, this is my honest assessment of the first film. I think what I've said about the first film and pointing stuff out and all this kind of stuff, I think that reflects more on me than it does the film.
Oh yeah, okay.
Because I probably just should have sat down and took it
also
for what it is.
and you've seen a lot of stuff now since then.
Yeah,
this is why you missed out on it. You know what I mean? Like when we saw it back in the day, there was nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There was no now. Everything has got drones out. I mean, even in this, you're kind of like, a drone really should have done that. Like, you know what I mean? As in, you're kind of like, that's normally what we're looking at. We're watching that everywhere. But
I'm predicting a 7 out of 10 from you.
Yeah, no, I'd actually.
What if he'd worn a helmet on the bike?
I'd have felt better about it.
Okay.
I'd have felt
Might have pushed it an
he was
8.
more inclined. The fact that this must be the oldest woman that he's ever acted opposite as his love interest as well, which maybe pushes it up to an 8, even though they thought Kelly was too old.
Which
apparently.
is, she seemed a little bit older than him in the first one.
She was older than him.
older than him.
Okay. The first Top Gun film was released on the 16th of May, 1986.
Okay, excellent.
I probably,
Yeah, 15.
I would have needed
See,
an
15.
adult to go with me to see that.
That's what I'm saying. So
All right.
I would have been 15 at the time, which is really why the certain parts of it stick out in my mind.
Okay, so with your untarnished, unspoilt, almost childlike approach to this film, Michael, what would you give it out of 10?
I'd also go with an 8 because it does what it does really well. I mean, the good things we can say about it in closing from me are it establishes who this lead character
So
is.
if I want to keep talking about this, you're not going to do it. You're
I know,
just
but I'm
saying
just
I'm
saying.
out.
No,
Right.
I'm saying is that it establishes the character really well at the start. Even if you've never seen the first one, you know who he is after the first 10 minutes of this. It establishes the mission really quickly.
Yes.
And then you just watch these characters train and do the mission.
That's it.
It's so simple.
Yeah.
And they do it well. And you can't argue with that.
And
at
that's
the
what
end
they
of the
did
day.
in the first. Okay, brilliant stuff. That is Michael and Fanula's take on Top Gun Maverick, okay? And that's where we have to leave it on that one. Your views, though, 086 60 25,000, WhatsApp or text 074 91 25,000.
On this week's Business Matters, I'll be talking to hearing aid audiologist and owner of Donegal Hearing Clinic, Sabrina Robb. I'll also be speaking to Donegal ETB's Further Education and Training Services Course Recruitment Officer, Tara Maguire, about the latest course offerings. So join me, Kieran O'Donnell, for Business Matters on Sunday evening after the 6 o'clock news. The Business Matters podcast is also available to download at highlandradio.com.
Business Matters, in association with the Faculty of Business at ATU Donegal. The part-time Level 8 Honours degree in Business is delivered through a mix of online and face-to-face lectures. Email execedbusiness@lyit.ie. That's EXECED business@lyit.ie or call 9186206.
Beat the cost of Brexit with no customs charges. Do you need a UK address for your limited company or personal use? Space Hub in Derry can provide you with your own mailbox. Have your post and parcels delivered to Space Hub and collect at your convenience. There's brand new 20-foot shipping containers now in stock, ideal for all your storage needs at our Springtown and Coolmore depots. Find us on Facebook at spacehubderry.com or call 04871 878077 for more details.
Cannon Furniture in Milford now stock and supply a full range of mobility aids. Everything from mobility scooters and electric wheelchairs to walking mobility aids and lift and rise chairs, with delivery across the northwest and a full backup service. Visit the open days this Friday the 10th and Saturday the 11th and see the great choice available. That's all at Cannon Furniture Milford, just 500 metres from Needle on the Kerry-Keel Road. See Facebook or call 91 535 79.
Hi guys, David James here, and we're asking you to push back the kitchen table, dust off your dancing shoes, and join us for our Jive for June campaign, all in aid of the Donegal Hospice. Tune in to the Jive Time show from 2:30 p.m. for your daily Jive. Video your Jive and send it to the Donegal Hospice at gmail.com, and they will post it on their socials, and we will also be posting your Jives on our social media channels too. To register and donate, log on to donegalhospice.ie or contact Isabel on 912565 or 087-238-9607 for a sponsorship form.
Okay, get involved with the crack. Watch us on our website, highlandradio.com, or on YouTube or Facebook and our social medias, and leave your comments there. Right, okay, Caroline says to me when she handed me earlier on, she says, would you talk about the time traveller's wife today? And I says, why? And it's on the list every single week. Like, would you? I think she must be sick of looking at the 4 words in a row in that order. So, what? Should I not have said that?
She's not going to be happy then
Mm-hmm.
because nobody liked it.
It's on his list. Let's get it off the list.
Well, I wanted to. I really hated this.
Passionately.
I hated
Great,
this.
well, this can be short and sweet. Put a line through it, it's gone.
It's gone, yeah, exactly. With my childlike way of reacting to these things. This is the new...
Did you have a wee before you sat down and watched it?
Oh, can I go now?
No.
I should have gone.
Put your hand up.
I should have gone before I came in, shouldn't I? This was a big deal, I think, and it still is. Because the critics hated this program. It was a novel back in 2004, a much acclaimed, much beloved novel that people were saying even back then it's probably unfilmable. They made a movie in 2009. Eric Bana is in that, and again, it didn't resound very well with critics or audiences. And the TV show, people were looking forward to this. I was looking forward to this because Stephen Moffat, I'm a huge fan of him. He was the guy back in, he arrived on the scene with shows like Press Gang in the early 90s and Joking Apart and Sherlock, and he was the guy behind Doctor Who for years. David Nutter is the director. He's the guy who shaped the X-Files in a major way in the 1990s and helmed some of the biggest episodes of Game of Thrones, amongst other things. He also directed numerous pilots for American television, all of which were picked up. He had an unbeaten streak until about 2012. But the programme that they've made this time, it's rubbish.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. The chemistry between the two leads is non-existent.
If you got off the fence and just told us exactly what you think.
Yeah, well, I've hated this even more than Space Force, which I really loathed last year. I didn't like the chemistry between the leads and the story, because it's about a man who time travels against his will, but the focus is on his wife. But he's time travelling back to meet her when she was a little girl. Now, I wasn't too bothered by that because the script sort of addresses it, but a lot of critics have said it's just inappropriate and it's
sounds wrong. Doesn't need to be done.
Doesn't need to be. Now, in the first episode, which is the only episode I've seen, I didn't go back for episode 2. They deal with it. There's a joke because they've obviously taken it on board, and Stephen Moffat is a very clever writer. And so he wants to be clever, and he has a thing where she has like a little My Little Pony type thing, and there's a joke about what are you doing? Oh, I'm just grooming it. Because obviously it's this man and the young girl. And
but even that, it's not fantastic.
But it's not, it didn't, for me anyway, the joke backfired. But that wasn't what worried me so much. I didn't like the premise, didn't understand why we should believe these two had chemistry. Like when she first meets him, she's like, because he's never met her before as an adult. But she's telling him in their first conversation, you and I are going to be married and stuff.
I don't like that. And
she comes
read
across this nutcase? Like.
Yeah, did you read any reviews that liked it, and did what they say make sense as to why they liked it?
I couldn't really find any. I know it's about 30. Let me just double check here. It is something like 38%. So 1 out of 3 critics liked it. I didn't know. A short answer. I didn't look for any. The negative critics were kind of. Sometimes negative reviews are so funny.
Yeah.
That you end up just reading those.
Fiona, have you watched any of this?
No, I'm not a big fan of the actress, and even the trailer didn't really draw me to it. I did read the book, and I enjoyed the book when I read it. The book obviously can expound a bit more on it, but I mean the basic story is that this man against his own will. Now, the way the book is kind of written it's that they were meant to be together through all time, through all, you know what I mean? That's the kind of theory of it. But even in the movie, the original movie with Eric Bana, that it just came across as, this is kind of weird.
So why do people keep going back to this source then to try and make sense of it on the screen?
Well, the people who like the book love the book.
Yeah,
I mean, a friend of mine I did the play with.
People consider it like very, you know what I mean?
It.
It's taken as being, the book is much taken as being extremely romantic, and this is, it's kind of like they're soulmates. They're meant to be together. It's also very difficult and tragic, kind of, because when he's seeing her as a child, she's actually married to him as an adult at the same time. So they're kind of like running alongside. So she's losing him as an adult to spend time, for the times that she knows that she spent with him in her memory. So it's very kind of complex in that sense. So people kind of tend to take the easy route with it.
I haven't read the book, but I've my theory based on some reading about the book and in general about fiction. In a novel, you can have pages and pages and pages of emotion, and but you can't film that. To put something on film, it has to be incident driven. Something has to be happening. So I think it's always going. I think it's just going to lose in the translation. And when people say the book is unfilmable, that's I think what they're talking about, because you can.
Yeah, it's easier to be broad.
And as I say, one of the people I did the play with recently, on one of the car rides to one of our shows, she talked at length about the book. It's obviously, from her perspective, a great book.
It is
and there's so much in it that works. But can you film it? Probably not.
All right, okay. So it's a stinker, by all accounts. That is The Time Traveler's Wife. off the list, I suspect, forever. So don't worry about that one, Caroline. Stop giving out about Michael's list. Okay, so this is not in the same sort of level as the likes of Line of Duty or whatever, but Midwich Cuckoo is one of those programs I'm hearing people mentioning incidentally. Have you watched it?
I know.
You know, so
I'm very excited.
It's getting a bit of traction sort of beyond trailers and stuff. People are enjoying it and talking about it off their own bat. It's on your list.
Well,
Have you watched it yet?
I just left it on it because I mentioned it last week that I just started it, but I'd only watched the first two.
Indeed.
Because it literally dropped, as they say, onto Sky Atlantic, and I'm sure it's on many other channels as well. If you have Now and all that, I know they have the same usually. Last Thursday. So Thursday of last week, so it was kind of up late and I watched two of them. I have since watched the last 5. I really enjoyed it. Now, I went into this completely not knowing what it was about, and actually I was laughing because in between everything else I was catching up on an old cracker that I was watching, and an old episode of Cracker, and actually the wife mentions The Midwich Cuckoo's the book, and I was like, I didn't even know it was a book. So I went into this program completely innocent and not knowing anything about it, and only because I enjoyed it so much looking into it. And I started getting a bit nervous then, because actually it's supposed to be, the book I think is written as a horror, and it's the adaptations of it have been used as many different things. I think it was like for The Damned,
Village of the Damned,
I think Children of the Corn, different things like that in it. But this is it's a really good show. There's 7 episodes in it. Like I said, Keely Hawes is one of the main characters in it. Max Beasley would be the other main character. But you would recognise 2/3 of the cast. There's all of the adults in it. You've seen them in other things like that. Don't be too worried about it if you don't like the blood and gore and you think that this is what it's going to be. It's not really that. It's more about the psychological of it. There's basically what it is that, as I mentioned last week, is there's a blackout in this village for 12 hours. Nobody can get in or out of it. And then 2 months later, it turns out that all the women of bearing age, regardless of their sexual orientation or their sexual activity, are pregnant. And it starts off then kind of with this is what happened. Then it does take a few jumps in the timeline in order to kind of get the kids that little bit older. So 1 and 2 is kind of the basis of the story. Then when you go to 3, the kids are supposed to be 3 or 4 years old, but it's obvious that they're not normal, that they're not normal, regular kids. It's obvious that there's something else going on, and then it's all about the exploration. Keely Hawes plays a mother of one of the girls who becomes pregnant and has one of these children, and she's also a psychologist, psychotherapist, something like that, and she ends up kind of trying to help the mothers cope with what's going on. It's a really interesting story. I just really enjoyed it. It's one of those things I actually sat down and just kind of watched.
Satisfying to the end.
Yeah, you watch Satisfying to the end. A lot of different things. The kids, which I was trying to look up to see what age they were or who they were, and I couldn't find anything. Even when you look at the cast, they don't come up on the cast as whether they're trying to protect them, because there's a load of kids in this, as you can imagine.
They're not on IMDb, no? IMDb?
No, I couldn't find lists of the kids because I was trying to find out what sort of age they're. The kids are amazing in it.
Good.
I mean, there's 1 or 2 of them, and if you were actually their real life mother, you'd be worried. Like, they are so scary. There's one in particular, and honest to God, I'd have to have her checked if I was her mother, because I don't know if anybody can play, a vacant kind of psychotic sort of a look, that sort of oh my God, you're just like, oh my, yeah, she is scary.
Brilliant. Did you see any of this?
They must be very
No,
young.
I haven't seen it, no.
Oh, Donald's watching it. He's loving it, but he won't hurry up and finish it so that we can talk about it.
You can't talk about it, yeah.
Talk about it in total.
All right, so that's The Time Traveller's Wife. It sounds like one, not sorry.
No,
that's the Midwich, sorry, my mistake. That's the Midwich Cuckoo.
Well, I'd say it made me want to download the book. So I'm like, I do really want to read the book
and
now.
It's the same author. He also wrote Day of the Triffids.
And you don't put it down either.
Huge fan of that, so I would imagine I'll enjoy this.
It makes you want to keep watching it.
Oh, it 100%. It makes you want to keep watching it. There's a lot of stuff going on in it. There's government intervention. There's, what is the story? Has this happened before? Has it not happened before? There's all those kind of layers to it, but it's just really well done. It's one of those things that you have to say is when they do a British drama well, It's hard to
They
beat
do
it.
well.
And this is definitely one that I'd say.
This is a two-part question, really. In the program, does anyone ride a motorbike? And if they do they wear a helmet?
No motorbike riding and a lot of safety.
Is that your criteria moving forward?
I think it really is. We determine that question, then we find out why.
Road safety is very important.
She
Road safety is very important.
I think this is a review we've got from as it relates to Top Gun. I think that it was an easy cash-in for the producers, sucking in the audience and giving them a similar beat. The script was as this and as smooth as Jennifer Connelly's filtered face. I'm not sure if it's nice to say that. I just felt that it fell in between two stools. Top Gun 1 had a follow-up with a parody, and this film felt like one. Yeah, the parody was, what's his name? Oh no!
Oh, it's not the Sheen.
Yeah.
Oh, I know them. Yeah,
there
they're
was
brilliant.
a couple of them.
Wasn't it Top Shots Part 2?
That was the second one.
Yeah, something like that. No, I didn't think. I thought Top Shots Part 2 wasn't actually Part 2. Was that not the name of it? That the whole parody was that it was called Part 2? I thought that was the whole thing, that it was like the...
hot Shots, yeah. And
there was no Hot Shots. There was only Hot Shots Part 2. That was the name.
I don't know many languages, but I think you do.
I know, but that was the name of the... That was the name of the first movie. I don't think there was an original Hot Shots.
I think there was.
I think it's just called Hot Shots. Yeah.
Oh, I thought the Part 2 was like that was what they, it was part of the parody, like that it was like, continuing it on.
That's
God.
why
Would you take that shovel off her, please?
Maverick,
so stop digging
away.
Yeah.
Maverick felt familiar to me because it's actually a sequel to the Hot Shots movies. That's why I recognised all the stuff.
I think the word, it's not sequel or it's not reboot. I think it might be requel. I think you know the word that I'm looking at. I don't know.
It's like a midi-uppy word.
All right, here's a nice review, actually, a strong review. My 14-year-old hadn't watched the original Top Gun and said Maverick was the best movie he's ever seen. And to me, I think that sums it up.
Yeah, that's really
good. And that's exactly
how
people felt when they saw the original. That when you're in that age and you went in, it was just... There's something awe about it.
Yeah.
You know, the way it's so big and the planes.
It's not a cerebral movie, it's a visceral movie. You feel this movie, and that's not a bad thing.
Definitely cinema.
Caller says Midwich Cuckoo is great. Keely Hawes is always brilliant. Another one, have either of you watched This Is Us? Because a caller says, TV movie reviewers, has anyone on the panel watched This Is Us on Amazon Videos? I thought it was so well written and covers a lot of aspects of life and makes you think about what life is really all about. Family, life, love. Now that finished up relatively recently.
Yes.
Yeah.
And anyone who's watched that
loves it.
Yeah. They're really, really... are you not in that?
I watched it, and I watched the first two series of it, and then I never went back to it.
I'm dying to try it.
It's a bit it was a bit, and when I say this, you know there's something. It's a bit schmaltzy.
Right, wow, okay. All right.
And I love a bit of schmaltz. I don't know what it was about it. It just when the new series came up, because I was late coming to it, and when the new series came up, because everyone said to me, "Oh, you should watch it." You watch it, and I was watching other things. But it is very much, it's very much kind of in the idea of, do you remember years ago, there was like
30-something?
The 30-something, all that sort of a feel. A lot of like
which
people of a certain age, navel gazing, talking about their lives, how they ended up where they are, flashbacks to their childhood, that kind of thing.
Has the panel reviewed Stranger Things Season 4? It's the best one yet and worth watching, even if you don't like other sequels. Now, I... honestly grew tired of Stranger Things. I think I enjoyed the first two, and then they kind of started going into an upside down world, which I know what that's all about, but at that point it kind of lost me a little bit because it went into an area of TV that I don't generally, but I enjoyed the first couple. I had some criticisms and all, but I always find when someone says, the soundtrack's brilliant, I think it means the rest of it's probably not fantastic, but people love it.
People love it. I gave up after season. I gave up after season one. Didn't you?
Maybe I've watched it all, and you gave it up. I can't remember.
No, we both gave it up. We both give it up.
All right.
No, it didn't kind of come up on my radar, as they say.
That's what everyone's saying now.
Even in Top Gun, they mentioned radar. Whatever next.
That guy in the back who's panicking. I love that by the guy in the back.
But I didn't think their call signs, actually, now that I think, their call signs weren't as good this time around as they were in the first one either.
Yeah. I take it that the asteroid has finally landed at Jurassic Park, similar to a plane landing in Emmerdale and taking out one or two casts. We don't know. I don't think so, but I think Sam Neill's back in it and all.
Well, no, because what happened is, if anybody's watched the last one, which was not a great movie, but it was that somebody was had gotten all the things, But
the last ones... there's very little relationship for me, and I'm not as analytic and clever as you in watching film. But the new ones to me had the name Jurassic Park, but they never really felt to me like they were connected to that original. Do you know where they're in a park?
The first one came back. See, it was set in the park. The first one that came back was set in the park, and basically what it was is that because they abandoned the island.
Yeah, but then they wanted to weaponize the.
But Death moved into the second one then.
Yeah.
So in the first one, what they were doing is they were trying to understand them and train them and different things like that, and that was kind of and it was all set in the actual park, and they had like a show, like a SeaWorld type of thing where they were coming up out of the water, and it was amazing then, and also. You were nearly 10, 15 years since the earlier one, so the graphics were insane. The middle one was a bit.
Did anyone
iffy.
ever was it explained? I might have missed it. How they bridged the gap from the egg to being like 1,000-foot dinosaurs so quickly? Do they grow? Do they grow quickly?
No, but it's over a period of. It's set over a period of years, like.
Is it? Okay.
So your man did it for years. Attenborough did it for the actor that played him. He did it for years over in the beginning one. Then there's a gap. Then the island was deserted. Then they got back on the island, and this is the one that Chris.
Yes, him. Okay.
Is doing it. Now, what happens at the end of the second one is that suddenly they're all let free. So this third one now is that we are now living in a universe in which dinosaurs. You can see one on the road, like. So this this is where the third one
riding the motorbike. We have enough hassle here between cyclists and motorists and tractors.
I know.
Please, do not start texting in about a T-Rex not using the turn signals.
The thing,
or not waiting at a pedestrian
not wearing
crossing.
A helmet on its motorbike. It couldn't ride a morbike because of the little short arms.
Yeah, I know, but its tail would be in the air.
Millions of different types of dinosaurs. You just show your foolishness there.
You're so ignorant.
I am going to get one of my. I'm going to get my 5-year-old cousins, my 5-year-old nephew, to give you a call, and he will let you know. But the amazing thing about it is, and why everybody's looking forward to it is.
Are they?
Dinosaurs are one of Dinosaurs are one of these
it.
things that people just can't get enough of.
And
all my nephews are mad about them.
My jaw was dropped seeing the first one. I just thought it was amazing. But a lot of people who perhaps don't think Top Gun is for them, this is their big summer one, the next one so far. All right, listen, we'll take a break. Back with more after these, including we'll get a look forward to the weather forecast for you.
Happy Father's Day.
This Father's Day, choose Dolce & Gabbana, Gucci, Cool Water, Diesel, 1 Million, Jean-Paul Gaultier. Choose McGee's Chemist, Main Street, Letterkenny. Great gifts for great dads. Click mcgees.ie.
Quick, write this number down. 91 48 234. Fleming Doors, industrial doors, garage doors, agri doors, insulated doors, milking parlour doors. Fleming, 91 48 234.
Don't sleep in and miss the very latest beds and mattress offers from dfibeds.ie, Ireland's leading online bed and mattress retailer. You'll get a comfy Irish-made mattress, upholstered base and headboard from an amazing €229. Check out the full range at dfibeds.ie. Delivery free and guaranteed to you within 7 working days. DFI Beds. Sleep well, live well.
Donegal County Council are delighted to announce that the Lough Ferry service linking Greencastle and Magilligan and the Swilly Ferry service linking Buncrana and Rathmullen are now fully operational. Both ferries operate 7 days a week. Further information, including timetables and fares, can be found at loughfoylferry.com or swillyferry.com.
Your specialty is quality tiles, bathroom suites and wooden floors. Who has the best range of tiles in Donegal?
Crawford Tiles.
The best wood flooring?
Crawford Tiles.
The best bathroom suites?
Crawford Tiles.
5-day bathroom refits?
Crawford Tiles.
And who's been tampering with my questions?
That'd be me.
Crawford Tiles, Castlefin. That'd be them. 07491 43942.
Getting value on your shopping has never been more important. That's why at Super Value we have low prices like burger buns only €1.05, coleslaw only €1, choc and nut ice cream cones 4-pack only $1.19, and get new weekly money off vouchers on the Real Rewards app. For low prices that compete with anyone, it's got to be Super Value.
Country Sundays continue at the Clanry Hotel this weekend, featuring Robert Mazzell and his band. Tickets €15. Doors open 8:15, dancing 9 till 11, followed by music in McGettigan's Bar. Country Sunday hot offer includes your ticket, bed and breakfast for only €70 per person sharing. Country Sundays at the Clanry Hotel with Robert Mazzell this Sunday.
You're welcome back to the programme. Now, Michael and Fionnuala have temporarily made way to make space for Frankie McGree, VR Generation Manager at Donegal Youth Service. Good morning to you. Thanks for calling in.
Good morning, Greg. Thanks very much for having me.
It's great to have you with us. Party in the Park is nearly upon us now, just a couple of weeks away, the 24th of June this year, of course. It's in Letterkenny Town Park. It's a 6-hour show. It's free admission, and tell us all about it. You've put together a fantastic lineup, I think.
Absolutely, Greg. It's really exciting and brilliant to be back. We're now. I've been doing this for 18 years, believe it or not.
No, I can't believe that. Okay, that's fantastic.
The first one started 18 years ago, and we've had 16, obviously, because we missed 2 there for the pandemic. So there's been a lot of pressure built up for this one, and we've got a full lineup. We've had to turn bands away, which is very difficult for me to do.
Just a word on the music, because a lot of the bands already well established, but historically over the last 18 years, people have got to see for the first time some artists that already successful went on to really great things. So you're picking the right bands through the years anyway, and the right artists.
Well, exactly. I mean, what it is young people coming to us with enthusiasm and with passion, and then we just provide a platform for them, and they go ahead and do it.
Right.
And then they kind of learn from their peers, and you might have one person in one band, you may also have their friends in another one, and there's a whole scene starts to develop.
So we've had
great.
Fontaines DC, the Murder Capital in their thousands, Fat Kids, Eve Bell, and many more there as well. Tell us about the lineup. Actually, talk about this is somewhat unique, isn't it? Because there's no alcohol and of course no drugs. Mm-hmm. That's worked obviously well over the years.
Well, it's youth work, right? Yeah. It's youth work. It's born out of we've got nothing to do. We want to play music. We're in a band and we have nowhere to play, and we said, okay, well let's see if we can play the park, because there's a great amphitheatre there. Looks like a fantastic space, and because we're a youth project, obviously we can't be providing alcohol.
And also break that link between entertainment and booze.
Exactly. Yeah. And creative.
Doesn't
spirit.
have to be there.
Yeah, the creative spirit doesn't need alcohol.
So tell us about some of the artists that are playing this year.
Well, very excited. We've a whole array of artists, but coming back to us is Joel Harkin, who's a favourite, and he's been with us since probably he was 15 or 16. We won the Irish Youth Music Awards with his band many moons ago. And then we've got Neptune M, which is a girl called Marianne. She's also sung with us for many years, and she just had a new song out there a couple of months ago. It's fantastic. Nice. Neptune M. Cherem, all girl band from Derry. They're our headline act. I don't know a lot about them, but my good friend John Muldowney informs me that they're fantastic, and he made the connection, and so that's how we ended up there. Boy M5, he's making strides. He's got the Party in the Park on his mini tour at the moment. He's got Paul Mooney on bass, another stalwart who was with us when he was 15 or 16, and he's now 30, but Boy M5's in his 20s.
Yep.
And yeah, so Paul's fantastic. We've got Aaron Shaw, we've got White Rose, we've got Anne Crannog, who are an Irish outfit, Irish traditional band, who are mentored by Moya Brennan and the crowd out west. And we've got Offshore Bass, who are coming to us from Armore Island. There's 30 young people coming over from the island. There's 85 young people coming over from Derry. And we've got African dancers from the IPAS Centre. So that's the Centre for People Under International Protection, which is out the road, just newly opened last year. And we've got good connections in there. And then we've got a young band called the Fades, who are just fantastic.
Yeah, so there's something for everyone there. What else is going on the day?
Well, we've got activities as well. It's a family fun day, right? So it's a platform for young people to play music, but it's also a space for families to come in and just let their kids enjoy the space in the park from 12 until 6. So we've got circus skills on. We've got laughter yoga. We've got art workshops. We've got a music workshop. We've got face painting. Clowns, and just various games and activities, the cube games and activities.
Sounds like I'm not just saying this, but it's just nice to have something that seems like a real all generations event.
Yes.
But also giving artists an opportunity to play to an audience, a big audience as well, and it feels very inclusive as well.
Yeah,
so it's ticking an awful lot of boxes. What about capacity? Is it turn up on the day, or
it's turn up on the day? It's a big park.
Yeah,
okay. If we fill the park, I'll be more. If we have to turn people away from that park, that's it. I'm done. I'm done. Somebody else take over.
Frankie, well done to you. It is Party in the Park. It's a drug and alcohol-free event, a family, all generations of the family event. Live music all day from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. Circus skills, face painting, and everything else. I'm sure you'll even be able to get a hot dog there or something.
Oh, there's plenty of food too.
All right, listen, brilliant stuff, Frankie. Thank you very much indeed. Back with more after these.
New rep scheme to open within weeks. For more in this week's Irish Farmers Journal, here's Paul Mooney.
New rep scheme will see farmers paid up to €10,000 for re-wetting and scrub control. We detail what the new actions will be and how your farm can gain priority entry. Hill farmers say they won't allow land sterilisation through designations. And in labour-saving tips, we look at portable water troughs.
This week's Irish Farmers Journal, with all you need to know on the new rep scheme. You cannot afford to miss it.
It's the Right Price Tiles and Wood Flooring biggest ever sale. €10 million worth of stock in store and ready to take home. All tiles, all wood flooring, all bathware. Everything slashed in price. Right Price Tiles and Wood Flooring. Ireland's biggest range, best prices, and in store to take home today. Sale now on.
New this week in Home Store and more. All summer duvets are half price. But better hurry, because when all our half-price summer duvets are gone, they're gone. Also, all outdoor cushions are still half price. But when all our half-price outdoor cushions are gone, they're definitely gone. Order online before 2 p.m. for next day delivery, or drop by your local Home Store and more. Home Store and more. A happy home.
Your energy savings start right here, right now with Bord Gosh Energy. New and existing customers can save up to €974 with our best dual fuel offer. Find out more at boardgoshenergy.ie. Discount on our standard unit rates for 12 months with fixed term dual fuel contract. Annual savings figure compared to BGE standard rates. Offer available to new and existing single fuel customers. Unit rate and standing charge apply. See boardgoshenergy.ie for EAB prices and full T's and C's.
The band everyone is talking about, the Seeger Sessions Revival, the 13-piece band playing the music of Bruce Springsteen's Seeger Sessions at the Abbey Hotel, Donegal Town on Father's Day, Sunday 19th of June, 3 till 5 p.m. Tickets available now at eventbrite.ie.
Mr. Blue Sky, please tell us why.
The Euro Millions jackpot is an estimated €65 million. Play responsibly, in-store, in-app or at lottery.ie. The National Lottery. It could be you.
Okay, Alan O'Reilly, founder of Carlo Weather. Thanks for joining us again, Alan. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Greg.
Great to have you with us. Okay, so we're in a spell of weather, aren't we? And is it the weekend? There's a pattern throughout the weekend up here in the northwest. What are we looking at, Alan?
Yeah, so the remains of Storm Alex are well out to the northwest, but they're bringing some very strong winds, possibly up to 80 or 90 kilometres an hour on the west coast. So very windy through today. Showers at times, some sunny spells, a real mixed bag. Again, tomorrow, very windy, not quite as windy as today, but still very windy, so very gusty. And a lot of showers, I'm afraid, in the northwest. Mm-hmm. Now, there will be some sunny spells, but there's going to be a lot of showers. So you want to have, I wouldn't say the brolly, it might blow away. Maybe the raincoat might be a better one.
The one thing about the sun, when it comes out this time of year, you feel it.
Yeah, there's a nice bit of heat in it for sure. Now, it probably will be around 15 or 16 degrees, and it'll be jumper on, jumper off kind of weather with the sun in and out. Sunday, we'll see a lot less showers. So there will still be some showers on Sunday, but there will be less, and there should be some more sunny spells, and the wind will be easing off. Still breezy, but certainly not as strong as it is today. Monday will be cloudy, but might hold dry, so you're not looking too bad on Monday. But it does look like we're heading into an unsettled spell again then Tuesday, Wednesday with more showers. It's kind of this showery regime. There's a small chance that we could see a bit of a plume of warm air pushing up from the south around Thursday, Friday, but it mightn't make it as far as the northwest, I'm afraid. I think last weekend you got spoilt with the weather. We were all looking at the post in Donegal.
I know, I love these long-range weather forecasts when there's a bit of hope towards the end. But maybe things improving a little bit from Thursday, perhaps, maybe.
Yeah, but it does look short-lived. Okay. A little bit of blast of heat, if anything, really. But if we have this low pressure just really kind of keeping close by, so it's this showery kind of weather. It's very hard to kind of pick a day where you can kind of be sure of good weather at the moment, I'm afraid.
Lovely stuff. You can check out Carlo Weather on the social media. Alan O'Reilly, thank you so much for your time today.
Cheers, Greg.
Take care of yourself. All right, that's what we've got to offer. Fionnuala and Michael, we've only got a couple of minutes because we ran on. I meant to bring Frankie in a little bit earlier. So what do you want to talk about? Should we just chit-chat or do you want to quickly jam in a review? Do you have a coming up? Oh, the staircase, actually. I'll get a quick word.
Yeah.
Because
I finished it, yeah.
Yeah, what did you think?
Loved it. This was absolutely compulsive viewing for me over the last few weeks. I came to it late and I ended up being able to watch 2 episodes a week because it was already 4 or 5 in. Colin Firth, I've always liked him, but I really
He's a joy.
He is. I reevaluated him. What he did with this central character and the complexities of this man, who may or may not be a murderer, but is certainly not a very nice person.
No, but at times it was hit and miss. I found in the first episode or two I watched, he gets the mannerisms and the accent very good at times.
Good, yeah.
The Umbrella Academy coming up on Netflix June 22. So you're giving people early warning to catch up on what?
It's absolutely fantastic. The Umbrella Academy is all about this. Again, all these babies are born after a particular meteor shower all across the world, and one man goes and collects them all and tries to raises them as his own family.
So we're going into season 2 here, or is this?
This is season 3.
Season 3.
This is season 3, but it's actually really good. It gives you the whole you got your whole superhero kind of thing, but it also as well then gives you sort of an insight into their characters and what's going on, their personal lives and what their powers have done to impact them along the way. It's very good.
I'm sure we'll talk about that.
Absolutely, when it starts up next week. But I just want to let people know, because it just started this week, it's a program called We Own the City, and it's done by the people that made The Wire, and it's finally the people from The Wire back again. Set in Baltimore, based on around 2017. There was a massive big thing in which apparently 25 police officers in Baltimore weren't able to testify, no longer able to testify in court, as they'd plagiarised themselves, they'd perjured themselves at one point or another, and yet they were still on the force. So there's a big investigation that's happening, but it's done by The Wire, so there's really kind of a gritty edge to it. I've only watched one or two, but it's definitely worth chat about next week.
Right, okay, I might even jump on that myself. All right, Michael, thank you very much. Enjoy your week. It's really good of you to come up and chat to us. I appreciate it greatly. Fanula Rabbit, thank you very much as well.
Thank you.
Have a fantastic week, and thank you to all of you who listened to the programme today and all week, and who watched the show and engaged with us. It's really appreciated. Plenty of comments to carry on over till Monday, but that's where we have to